Okay, I would like to reconvene open session of the regular Board of Education meeting for Washington Unified School District, May 11th, 2016. Our meetings are usually on Thursdays, as I said this before we went into closed session, but 2 months ago we had an announcement made to us. The chamber had reserved the same space for the state of the city, and so 2 months ago we made this change to our board meeting. So it is on a Wednesday night tonight, but we are usually on Thursdays. So announcements of actions to be taken in closed session. Information was received, and we will be going back into closed session for item E3, Government Code Section 54957, Public Employee Superintendent Evaluation. And let the record reflect that all board members are present, with the exception of Board President Cruz, who is sick tonight and regrets not being here. Okay, do I have approval of the agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Oh, we need to say the Pledge of Allegiance. I'm so sorry. We have a whole lot of celebrations tonight, including our top 10 seniors. So I'm hoping that some of you might be here. Is Elizabeth Hager here by chance? Is Joseph Johnson here by chance? Joseph Johnson is one of our top 10 seniors here to lead us in the pledge. Do we have one here tonight? On their behalf, Stan, would you please lead us in the pledge?
All these defaults to the principles. Ready? Pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you so much. We have communications and celebrations. The first one tonight is recognition of River City High School top 10 seniors. So if we could have Principal Moishix back up, please.
Thank you, Ms. Kirby-Gonzalez. Thank you, board members. Many of the people in the audience know these names very well, so I know they're going to very much enjoy this celebration of reading off these names and giving these wonderful kids a shout out. So our top 10 students in order, number 1, Elizabeth Hagar, Joseph Johnston, Yakima Huerta, Jackie O, Jordan Criswell, Ryan De La Rosa, Vlad Gutiev, Tyler Packham, Darren Kersey, and Robert Vigil, who was playing tennis today and winning the section championship for River City High School.
Nice.
Thank you so much, and a big congratulations to them, and thank you to those seniors for representing us so well. Next item, we have recognition at Bridgeway Island Elementary Oral Language Festival for student participants. Can we have Principal Chin, who's been very busy tonight? She was just at their school's open house, which I also stopped by quickly.
Thank you, board members. Good evening. It is our pleasure to share with you one of the new student activities that we have at Bridgeway. We really wanted to promote public speaking, and we have some exemplary examples tonight. So would you like to share a little bit more about what we did, Mr. Knapp?
Sure. Our idea is that as we're moving into this generation where we're pushing towards Common Core and we're trying to get people into practical skills that they're going to use in the future, we understand that in just about every career path, being able to speak in public is a critical component. And we wanted to provide an opportunity for our students to get practice with that. Our goal eventually is to be able to have oral language competitions, or what we used to call speech competitions, throughout the district, and to be able to send students to state and regionals. But right now we had 5 brave individuals that showed up for a showcase and presented for our entire school, and we were just so proud of them. We have 2 that are going to perform their short poems for you tonight, and then I will hand out the certificates to the rest.
Thank you.
So let's start out with Jolie Ding. Jolie, can you come up? This is a slow process. I'm going to start lowering this down for you. Oh my God, how cute. You ready? So you're just going to talk right in there. You don't have to stand too close. Come right.
The poem?
Yeah, the poem. Ready?
Hi, my name is Hi, my name is Jolie Ding, and I'm going to recite you The Biggest Burp Ever by Ken Nesbitt. The record so far for the world's biggest burp is held by Melinda McNirt. It wasn't on purpose, she wasn't to blame. Her tummy just rumbled, and out the burp came. Her mother and father both covered their ears. Her brother and sister were nearly in tears. Her puppy looked panicked and yipped as he fled. Her kitten just cowered and covered his head. The cars in the street began skidding and stopping. The shoppers in shops started dropping their shopping. The squirrels all burrowed, the birds flew away. The sun disappeared for the rest of the day. As clouds began thundering all over town, the trees toppled over, the buildings fell down. Tornadoes and hurricanes blew through the sky. The rivers fell backwards, the oceans ran dry. Volcanoes erupted from Perth to Peru. The Grand Canyon, Mount Everest grew. The earth started spinning in a different direction. And worst of all, I lost my iPhone connection. Belinda was pretty embarrassed, all right, but she was well-mannered and very polite. And that's when she knew it'll all be okay, when she said, "Excuse me," and went on her way. Thank you.
Very brave. She performed under the poetry humorous category, as you can tell. And the next performer also performed under poetry humorous. This is Caitlin Kinsey, first grader.
Hello, my name is Caitlin Kinsey, and I will be reciting a poem from Shel Silverstein. Sick. I cannot go to school today, said little Peggy and McKay. I have the measles and the mumps, a gash, a rash, and purple bumps. My mouth is wet, my throat is dry. I'm going blind in my right eye. My tonsils are as big as rocks. I've counted 16 chicken pox. And there's one more. That's 17. And don't you think my face looks green? My leg is cut, my eyes are blue. It might be the stomach flu. I cough and sneeze and gasp and choke. I'm sure that my left leg is broke. My hip hurts when I move my chin. My belly button's caving in. My back is wrenched, my ankle sprained. My appendix pains each time it rains. My nose is closed, my toes are numb. I have a sliver in my thumb. My neck is stiff, my voice is weak. I hardly whisper when I speak. My tongue is filling up my mouth. I think my hair is falling out. My elbows bent, my spine ain't straight. My temperature is 108. My brain is shrunk, I cannot hear. There is a hole inside my ear. I have a hangnail, and my heart is. What? What's that? What's that, you say? You say today is Saturday? Goodbye, I'm going out to play.
Caitlin, you can stay up here. So thank you for helping us recognize these kids. It took so much bravery for 5 individuals to go out in front of a school of 1,000 and perform. I'm just going to call them up and give them their certificates. So first is Caitlin Kinsey. Jolie Dang. Anna Grexton. Lillian Wang. And Kaylee Santos. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Many adults in this room would have a hard time, one, memorizing all of that, and two, speaking with such inflection. That was a wonderful job, and congratulations to everyone who came out. And I know it was a busy night for you with open house, too. So thank you. Next, we have J3, which is recognition of the achievements of Washington Unified School District's MESA, which is Math, Engineering, Science Achievement teams from River City High School, Bridgeway Island, and Elkhorn. If we could have Renee Collins, our Director of CTE, please come up.
Okay, good evening, board. Good evening, district staff and community members. Thank you for allowing me to talk tonight. And I am going to invite all of our students who are part of MESA that were able to come and enjoy the celebration this evening, as well as their teachers and the administration. So if Grace Chin and her staff and students and Lisa Smith from Elkhorn Village and her staff and students, and River City High School, so Stan Moisich and his staff and students could come up and be recognized. As they're coming up, I'm just going to speak briefly about the MESA program. The district has had a MESA program for the last 6 years. It started at Elkhorn Village with Anselmo Marin kind of leading the way. He is one of the instructors and the advisor, and he's since started an elective course. So Elkhorn Village is the only school and only K school to be offering MESA as an elective course. The other schools are offering it as an after-school club that students can participate in. MESA stands for Math, Engineering, and Science Achievement, and these students have certainly demonstrated some achievement this year. So I really, when I read about some of the stuff that they have done, I knew that we had to come and we really had to celebrate them publicly. So the WUSD MESA program includes 47 students, district-wide, led by teachers at the 3 participating sites. So Phyllis Cruz and Jeremy Hevlin Martinez are at River City High School with their students. Julie Law and Tessa Hevlin Martinez are at Bridgeway Island, and Anselmo Marin and Lee Cha are at Elkhorn Village. So this spring, the MESA teams took part in 2 competitions, the local preliminary MESA Day on March 20th and the regional MESA Day on April 30th. WUSD had 18 students earning first, second, or third place medals in the pre-MESA Day competition, and they sent 11 students on to the MESA Day regional competition, competing against schools all over Northern California. Some of the activities that they participated in, our high school teams built prosthetic arms, and their teachers told me that they built one of the prosthetic arms for $20 with pieces from Dollar Tree, and it actually worked. They were able to program it so that it worked. They also did an egg express model and lab where they had to develop a model where they could drop an egg and have it successfully fall from 6 stories at UC Davis and land without cracking or breaking. And our team was able to do that successfully, so that was exciting. They also did a popsicle stick and bridge competition where they had to measure the strength and the weight. So maybe they have a 100-gram popsicle stick structure, and then they had to be able to maintain 100 grams on top of that 100-gram structure, and that's how they were graded. So that was a challenging engineering experiment. And then finally, we had groups that participated in math tests. So students were given 7th and 8th grade math problems to solve, and they had to team solve. They had to work as a group to solve it, and they were scored both on what they were on the steps that they used to solve the problem, and then the actual result, whether or not it was correct or not. So our students participated in a lot of different activities, but we had 6 different teams participating regionally. 2 of them won first place medals at the regional competition. 2 won second place medals, and 1 won a third place medal at Mesa Day. And we're just so excited for them as we move forward with Mesa. I know that we have Elkhorn Village has a program, K-8 already. River City has had a program for the last 2 years, 9th through 12th. And starting next year, Bridgeway Island is going to have a K-8 Mesa program as well. And we're hoping to just build on that within the district because, as you know, my interest is career and technical education and is absolutely a pipeline into the high school programs as well as into our post-secondary programs at the local colleges and training centers. So I'm just so very proud of all of these individuals, and I have certificates to give all of them, but because we have 47, what I'm going to do is I'm going to invite the instructors or the advisors up from each area to recognize the students that are here, and then I will give the certificates that have been signed by Superintendent Luna to the instructors to be able to get passed out following the meeting and at school tomorrow. So thank you for that, and I'm going to invite Anselmo up first, please, from Elkhorn Village.
Thank you. Good evening, board. My students here tonight, Juliet Rodriguez, Kelamendi Gutuvacala, Isaac Swearingen, Abril Jimenez, Kareli del Toro Ramirez. Who else did I miss? Brianna Solis, who's in my elementary MESA program after school. And shout out to 2 former Elkhorn students, Jimena Solis and Angel Solis, who are at the high school now.
And Julie from Bridgeway Island, please.
Hi, good evening. So our students that we have present today are Isabel Sidora, Kara Mann, Diana Tovmasian, Ashley Jensen, and Natalia Walkowski.
And Phyllis or Jeremy from the high school.
Well, he already announced our 2 that came. Jimena and Angel came, but just the kids do work really hard on these projects, and it's really nice to see when they get recognized. So thank you.
Hey, thank you again for this opportunity to be here.
Thank you.
Thank you. A big thank you to all the kids for your hard work, and for the teachers for your hard work with the students, and for the principals for your support and being here tonight too. Thank you. Okay, that takes us to our K on the agenda, which is Student Association reports, and we have K1, which is our Student Board Member report.
Good evening, Board of Trustees and members of the audience. Tonight I have a report from 2 of our WUSD schools. Southport PTO hosted their 2nd annual Spring Fling Family Dance on Friday, April 22nd. Over 150 students, teachers, parents, grandparents, and siblings attended the sock hop. Southport mascot Quacky the Duck made an appearance and took pictures with Southport families. Southport PTO also prepared a spaghetti feed for the families in attendance. Thank you, Southport PTO. Over 400 students and their families enjoyed running in the rain on Saturday, May 7th for Southport's annual Duck Dash Color Run, Community Fair and Pancake Breakfast. Students collected pledges that will go toward classroom supplies, and there were many vendors and activities and community members that attended. Tonight is Southport's open house. There will be a band, concert, food trucks, and Scholastic Book Fair. And Southport Elementary is proud to announce that 2 of its students are winners of the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Messages of Peace contest held in Atlanta, Georgia. There were 27 winning messages in all, and they will be displayed in the Martin Luther King Jr. National Park, where over 7,000 visitors will read their poems annually. 2,000 poems were entered from 11 different countries, and Southport is so honored for 2nd grader Eve Wambar and 6th grader Ximena Alcantar. This is 2nd grader Eve's poem. Martin was a good man. He taught us peace, he taught us love, he taught us to be friends with one another, and that was Martin Luther King. He changed our lives peacefully. He changed the world. He made me have a big dream too, and even though he is gone, he will still be in my mind and heart. And this is 6th grader Ximena's poem, Marching Band. Look at that marching band, hand in hand, no color the same. Martin Luther King Jr. had made his claim. A nation far and wide to matter what is inside, together as one marching band. And on Thursday and Friday evening, starting at 6:30, River City will be having its Spring 2016 Dance Showcase directed by Constance Adams. Admission is $6 for adults and $5 for students. And in sports news for River City girls soccer competed against Kennedy High School last night in the first playoffs round after winning the TCC League title for the second year in a row. River City boys tennis competed in the section championships today against Intercom and won. Throughout their entire season, the boys tennis team went undefeated, and they also won the TCC League title. And the River City girls and boys swimming teams also won the TCC League title, and the girls softball team is heading to playoffs. Needless to say, we are very proud of our River City sports teams. Oops. And starting Monday, River City will be having a mural painted on the wall of the H building facing the center of campus. This mural will help to encourage school-wide pride and spirit. That's all I have for tonight, but thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Next, we have our WTA report. Don Stauffer.
Good evening, Board. On this day of all days, the Day of the Teacher, I think it's appropriate to talk about some of the great things that our teachers do in this district. So I made a list, and I actually had a lot of help from people on this. So I went through A through Z, so I have 26 things for you, and stopped there. And we know there's many more things besides that. So what are some of the things our teachers do? We take kids to science camp. We help put on talent shows. We take field trips, like today's trip to the Academy of Sciences in San Francisco. We write grants. We produce plays. We barbecue. We are innovative educators. We come to campus over spring break to help a student with a STEM project, which I know you know about. We do science night. We do sing-alongs. We plan field days. We tutor on our breaks, at lunch, before school, after school. We do lunchtime sports. We do a variety of other after-school programs and clubs. We do spelling bees. We chaperone Washington, D.C. tours on our vacation time. We coordinate sock and penny drives for local charities. We help with other school fundraisers. We help with book sales. We read names at graduation. We buy supplies for our classrooms with our own money. We feed students. We clothe students. And sometimes we provide housing for our students. And sometimes we are shoulders to cry on. And we are cheerleaders when our kids need a boost. Having said all that, I'm looking very forward to our mediation next week, and I hope we can come up with a settlement for our teachers then. Thank you.
Thank you. That was a beautiful list, and I know many of those things are done outside of contract hours, if not all of them, so thank you. Next, we have our CSEA report. Do we have Robert Roberts here?
I'm filling in for Robert.
Okay, fabulous. Come on up.
Hello, Board, Superintendent, thank you. Happy to be here for Robert tonight. I am here representing the over 350 CSEA employees in the district. Happy to be here on the Day of the Teacher. We love our teachers. Our next meeting is our final meeting of the school year, and that is Friday the 20th. We'll have a meeting at 5 o'clock and then pizza afterward. Of course, you're all invited to join us at Mountain Mike's Pizza. We would like to thank HR Department for working with us to create some new jobs in the district. And I want to remind you that next week is Classified School Employee Week. The theme is Everyday Heroes. Everyday heroes who drive buses and cook breakfasts, copy, collate, staple, file, manicure grounds, clean classrooms, bandage boo-boos, keep the good internet running while keeping the bad internet at bay, and we are happy to be part of Washington Unified. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thank you for reminding us of all that CSEA does for us. Next, we have our public comments, and I'm going to read from our agenda on what that looks like at this time. So right now for public comments, members of the public may address the board on topics that are under the jurisdiction of the board and are not on the agenda, although the board by law may not take action at this meeting. The board may limit in total time for public input on any topic to 20 minutes. If it chooses to waive the item limit for a particular, unless it chooses to waive the item limit. Individual speakers may be limited to 3 minutes to comment on any topic. Public comments consisting of individual charges, complaints, or derogatory remarks about any district employee are requested to be submitted in writing to the administration in accordance with the district's complaint procedure. And we know that not everyone feels as comfortable as the two young ladies who were speaking in front of us earlier today. So we ask that you remain a respectful audience, which I have no doubt you will. Tonight, we have, I believe, 13 public comments, and I believe that it looks like they might be on the same topic. So I want you to think about when you come up, just be cognizant if, I know that you've given up your time to be here, and we want to make sure all the voices are heard. If somebody has said something that you also want to say, maybe you can change your direction as you go, just to ensure that all voices are heard and that we hear all of your points that need to be made. So our first public comment, can we have Vikram Kelkar? And I hope I pronounced that right. Please come up to us. Vikram. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Vikram Kelkar, and I'm a junior at River City. And I would just want to thank you for giving me the opportunity today. I'm proud to say I come from West Sacramento because of the rich culture and small-town atmosphere that West Sacramento provides. Some of the people that add to this rich atmosphere are the teachers who are part of Washington Unified. These are the people that have helped and guided me along my educational journey, and the experiences and relationships that I've built in my teachers show that the faculty and staff are part of Washington Unified are one of the best, if not the best, in the Sacramento area. Many teachers go above and beyond their contract expectations as they stay before school or after school for the students' benefit. They create mock trial teams or organize new clubs, and teachers sacrifice their own personal time for these organizations to take place for all the academic improvement of the students they guide and teach. Many adults ask myself and my peers if I've ever considered about being a teacher when I'm older. I tell them yes, but that the salary that is provided to teachers is not at the same levels that other professions offer. Because the salary is not the best it could be, I'm scared for my younger sister that she may not receive the same educational experiences from teachers and staff that I have had the honor of knowing and learning from, because they may leave Washington Unified for another job somewhere else that understands and appreciates the sacrifices that teachers put into their work every day. The teachers at Washington Unified go above and beyond in every category for their job, and the community needs and deserves the best teachers at their schools for their kids. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Vikram. Can we have John Malik? And after that will be Linda McMahon. So John Malik. Hi.
Hello. It's kind of like deja vu all over again for me up here. I was here last year for the first time, long-term resident, 15 years in West Sac. And I'm here on behalf of, I don't have any students in the school, but I have a son who teaches. I'm here to ask for a fair, equitable treatment of students and teachers. Please work on getting them a proper pay raise so that hopefully none of the teachers behind me will come up and say, I'm leaving West Sacramento to go somewhere else. Thanks.
Thank you, John. After Linda McMahon, we have Tiffany Colasanti.
I don't know about you guys, but I tear up at hearing things like that. Good evening and happy day of the teacher. I want to speak with you this evening about what's important for teachers. It's just my opinion, but I've been doing this job in this community for the last 37 years. So I've had a chance to observe, develop a hypothesis, and have come to an educated conclusion. Among the many items on my list of importance, I want to focus my comments on one. One thing that's important to teachers is being validated. Is what we are doing each and every day in our classrooms making a difference in the lives of students we teach? How can this be measured? Thanks to the school board and the superintendent, Luna, at each meeting I've attended, I have listened to inspiring accounts of the marvelous things my colleagues are doing in their classrooms across this district for the children of West Sacramento. Whether it be late evenings, weekends, or even during holidays, teachers give of their time. At the last board meeting, you celebrated high school teachers Kate Foreman, Jabari Fagu, Jennifer McAllister, Sadiqa Yousafzai, just to name a few. So I can conclude that educators in this district are going beyond what their defined day asks of them. Your staffs are dedicated people who are passionate and committed to their schools and the children they teach. Unfortunately, as we enter yet another year of labor disputes, although the celebrations of hard work continue, the reality is your employees sit before you and begin to wonder if you are actively listening and truly value what they give every day. Your employees need to be paid salaries that are comparable to surrounding districts. Your employees need a contract settlement that is fair. Your employees need to be validated for the tremendous jobs they do. There is no reasonable explanation why Washington Unified School District cannot commit to a contract proposal that matches the excellence that it receives from its employees every day.
Thank you, Linda. After Tiffany, we have Jen Grexton.
Hi, good evening. My name is Tiffany Colasanti, and I teach kindergarten at Westfield Village. This is my 5th year in Washington Unified and my 10th year teaching. I'm part of the leadership team at Westfield, and I'm in charge of the communication committee as well as our holiday performance. I planned that in the hospital when my water broke a little early. I'm also an original member of the district's Innovative Educator Program, and I regularly communicate with parents through class newsletters and notes. I've piloted student-led conferences at my school, and I have spent my own time and money on continuing to develop as a professional educator, and I'm committed to bettering my practice and my school. I'm an educator that you should want to keep in Washington Unified. I'm also someone that you should worry about losing. This is the first time in my teaching career that there are going to be so many elementary teaching jobs available. My old district is hiring again too. With 9 years of service, I can go to almost any district around and start at year 10 on their salary schedule. I went to one of Sacramento City Unified School District's teacher recruitment fairs at the beginning of April this year. I wanted to see what jobs might be available and to keep my options open. I met with the principal for about 20 minutes and was offered an open contract on the spot. He immediately directed me over to the line to meet with Human Resources. The HR analyst explained the contract, and as he sensed my hesitation, he started to sell me Sac City. He explained that they pay $0 for their health insurance, including the entire family. He gave me a couple days to make my decision. I went home and I thought about it, discussed it with my family, and I chose not to sign the contract at that time. I want to stay in our district. I like working here, I really do. If I leave, I'm going to be picky about where I go, and it would only be for the right position at the right school. Teachers here deserve a contract that's fair and equitable. We need to be offered a competitive salary and benefits. Please urge the negotiating team to do just that. Thank you.
Thank you, Tiffany. After Jen, we have Annie. It looks like Caitlin, I believe. Thank you.
Hi. I'm sorry, I wasn't aware of the 3 minutes, so I tried to cut up here. And full disclosure, Ashley, I stole your pen. My kids started out in private school, so when the time came several years ago to move them to the local public school, in our case, Bridgeway Island, we didn't know what to expect. People talk and share opinions, and there's plenty to be said about differences in schools, but we have never looked back, have no regrets, and this is largely due to those who have taught our kids. In the past few years, I've been lucky enough to be a stay-at-home parent, which has allowed me to volunteer a fair amount. That, in turn, has opened my eyes to the many extras our teachers offer our students, above and beyond the amazing classroom performance and all of the extras the other gentleman mentioned, above and beyond. Our band director currently teaches nearly 150 students more than a dozen different instruments at 4 different levels from beginning to honors. And they just brought home a first-place trophy from a regional music competition, as did several more ensembles at the high school level. Those accomplishments stem from dedication. Long before the VAPA program was introduced into the school day, teachers were leading students toward a love of the arts with drama, showing them how to work hard and do it well. I'd never seen or heard of Music Man, yet my kids to this day will recite dialogue and sing about Gary, Indiana, and how you gotta know the territory. Some kids have real talent, and some haven't yet heard the bad news. But every one of them is given time, attention, and praise to build their confidence and really shine in an annual talent show. Teachers make this happen. Literacy. An after-school book club was formed to encourage a love of reading and to expose kids to books they might not otherwise have discovered. As they say, if you don't like to read, you just haven't found the right books. This club is growing, and as you recognize tonight, some of our teachers are bringing back the speech meet, another very important part of development. Robotics. Rather than wait until the 8th grade or maybe some very lucky 7th graders, we have one of the lower grade 4th grade teachers who decided to start a robotics club, which has now grown. It's trickling backward into the classroom from the after-school program. Starting an interest when their potential and their interest is still like a game to the kids, and it's not something they might choose to become interested in. We've heard about the MESA program, about C-STEM. As the recent competitions show, our kids are obviously very skilled and have talent. National Junior Honor Society is amazing. Peer tutoring is another program that's really grown. Even with this lengthy list, just from my own experience with my family, I'm sure I've missed many activities. There are a lot with other schools. With my own children, I've seen teachers raise the bar to keep one of my kids challenged, to work with another to help boost him up over the bar, and there's a third that's probably sent them to the bar. But they have never given up on my kids or any other students, and they don't settle for good enough, and we shouldn't consider inferior compensation good enough. I remember a former coworker who applied for a raise, and when the boss asked why he should get the raise, he said that he needed to pay his rent. Well, our boss replied that it wasn't her responsibility to make sure that his expenses were paid. Rather, he should be paid according to how well he did his job. This is absolutely true. Employees who prove their worth, are passionate and dedicated, and do an exceptional job should be compensated as such. Unfortunately, this boss was slow to reward those employees who did deliver excellence, and many of them took their skills elsewhere.
Jen, I'm really sorry. I'm going to have to ask you to wrap it up, but you can also email us too with your piece.
Okay. Thank you. Just in closing, around our school, there are signs that say be safe, be respectful, and be responsible. That is to show our kids that they need to do the right thing for themselves and for others. Parents are asking the board to do the right thing for all of us and compensate the teachers fairly.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Jen. We have Annie right now, Kakadin, I believe, and then after her would be Dio Saros. Is Annie here?
Would it say Annie Rakich?
Oh, maybe that's an R. Yes. Sorry, I read it as a K. Thank you. Sorry.
Oh, that's fine. Hi, my name is Annie Rakich. I am a sixth-year high school math teacher, 4 of which have been here in West Sacramento at River City. Through all my years of teaching, it's only been 6, but every year I've made a point to become involved outside of school activities that are outside of the classroom, as so many others have, and dedicated lots of time outside of school hours creating lessons for students, as so many others do. When I pull into the school most mornings by 6:30 a.m., I already see other cars by the Math and Science building. When I leave campus between 5 and 5:30, I still see teachers' cars. I lost my spot, sorry. Teachers' cars in the parking lot. Don't we deserve to be compensated for our extra time and our hard work, just as much as anyone in Sac City or Elk Grove or any of the other surrounding school districts in the Sacramento area? Yes, we did get a pay raise last year, but that was in an attempt to catch up with the districts who were already ahead of us. Well, guess what? With all the money going into education, they all got raises too. We're still behind. We still need to catch up. We work the same, have the same living expenses, yet are compensated significantly less. I want to remind everybody at this moment of one of the teachers who spoke last year at a board meeting during impasse. Her name was Courtney Selby, and while she was a first-year teacher at River City, she had been teaching high school math for 8 years. She said last year that we might lose her to another district that would give her higher pay, and we did. She now teaches about 15 minutes away in Atomis Unified School District and has a $20,000 salary increase from what she earned last year. Don't we want to keep our dedicated teachers? I myself attended a training at Twin Rivers School District and while I was there, I was asked to switch over for better pay, better benefits, and a bonus for math and science teachers. I want to stay with Washington Unified. Convince me to stay. Show me that the loyalty that we as teachers show to the West Sacramento community and to the students is reciprocated by the district. Thank you.
Thank you, Annie. After Dio, we have Deborah Rodriguez.
Good evening, board members, teachers, and parents. Thank you for allowing me to speak. Hello, I am Dio Santos. I have a first grader in Bridgeway Island Elementary and vice president of Bridgeway Island's School Site Council. I would like to advocate on behalf of the fine teachers of the Washington Unified School District. My wife and I have been very fortunate to volunteer a substantial amount of hours to Joanna Wilkowski's first grade class. So much so, my wife and I qualified for the $60 reimbursement for fingerprint processing. I could tell you her class is awesome. I observed Mrs. Wilkowski exercise great care and responsibility in the education of my son and his 23 other classmates. My son is excelling as a student and as a person. My wife and I could have moved to another satellite community of Sacramento, but the locality of Bridgeway Island Elementary and its teachers is one big reason for staying. As a member of the School Site Council, Grace Chin has done an excellent job of spelling out her rationale for the school budget allocation. Mrs. Chin's plan for additional programs, expanding her students' learning and personal self-growth is ambitious and within budgetary parameters. In the council meetings, we are proud to see every successful program that has been implemented for the past year and upcoming year. The successful, ambitious programs for Bridgeway Island Elementary that Bridgeway is offering is completely hinged on teachers working beyond the school day as a volunteer, oftentimes without additional pay, spending time away from family and their children. A few of these programs have a budget allotment that will allow an instructor to be paid for these extra programs. These programs truly benefit the student and make me excited to see my son grow in his Bridgeway Island experience. Seeing these extracurricular activities firsthand allow me to see the instructors shine in their passion for learning. I've had the pleasure in participating in Mrs. Chin's Principal's Cafe, where we discuss issues in an informal setting. And just last week, it was explained that a local high school is achieving high marks in academics and morale, when a few years ago it was not operating at its fullest potential. As I understood it, the cause for the change was the teachers that passed the higher salary and committed to the school and its students. It was also cited that students coming from Bridgeway, with their positive attitudes, willingness to learn, help sustain a positive environment for the high school, that the high school was needing. The imprint of Washington Unified School District and Bridgeway Island teachers was evident in the elementary school and high school level. Dismissing any pay increase will jeopardize the flow of quality instructors and upstanding students in West Sacramento from grade school to high school. My concern is that Washington Unified School District may be putting itself in a position of losing its most valuable asset, its teachers. With charter schools jockeying for experienced teachers, you cannot blame your employees for leaving for a better wage. School districts, even neighboring school districts, can lure our valued teachers away for better wage within a reasonable commute. It's reasonable to think teachers living in our city limits are passing jobs in Washington Unified for greener pastures, and our teachers certainly can be replaced by inexperienced recent graduates or less qualified instructors. I'm imploring to the board to help keep Washington Unified as intact as possible. Please allot the pay increase for our teachers. We do not want to see them leave. It is no secret that teachers are underpaid and unrecognized, but to us, the parents, the teachers mean so much to us and our children. Please keep their salaries competitive to the neighboring districts. Our children, our teachers, are as much as valuable asset to any other city. Last year's pay increase was a statement to the same way.
I'm going to have to ask you to wrap it up. I'm sorry.
Yes, ma'am. As elected officials, we trust you with West Sacramento's most prized possession, our future. I trust you will make the right decision and approve the pay increase comparable to our neighboring school districts. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. After Deborah Rodriguez, we have Nancy Abplanch, maybe.
Okay. Good evening, colleagues, parents, students, and members of the school board. I come to speak today out of anxiety and heartbreak. I'm a second-year teacher in this district, and I love my school. I love my students, and I really love my coworkers. It's my third year teaching total, and I can honestly say I've picked the right profession. I teach Spanish, and I'm looking forward to teaching the new freshman course in the fall. I advise for the command dance crew, the chess club, and I'm also starting an archery club, which will meet once a week starting tomorrow. And I'm finally on the verge of permanent status. It's something that I've been dreaming of and striving for. And I love the idea of staying at one school, one district, for the duration of my career, watch generations come through a school and just work on my craft. But I'm here to speak tonight because I may have to give up everything that I worked so hard for these 2 years. I'm here to speak because even though my dream is on the verge of becoming true, I'm not excited. I'm looking at the situation that we're in again, and I'm wondering, how many more times is this going to happen? I've been told by more experienced teachers to get out, to leave before I get in too deep. Can you imagine what it feels like to hear from a seasoned teacher that you look up to that this district does not value its teachers and that the fight will continue year after year? Can you imagine what it feels like to be starting a club and then realize if you have to work to rule that the club is going to stop before you can even start it? That the clubs that you already advise for will have to stop? That your volunteering at a dance show tomorrow night may have to stop? That events that you've already volunteered at before wouldn't have happened at all? That reading names at graduation won't happen? But I can't afford to live like this. Not when I can go to another district and make $10,000 more a year, even at my level right now. And I've shopped. There are 184 Spanish teacher positions right now in California. And I love it here, but I dream of a house and a new car and a family. And with my student loans, I can't afford to be paying them off this slowly. I can't afford to live like this. Teachers in this district work really hard, harder than other districts, in my opinion, because of all of the things that we have to deal with here. And why are we not paid comparable wages? We used to have the excuse of having budget issues and just, what's the excuse now? What's the reason? We haven't been given one. Is it because the district doesn't value its teachers? Because that's the only thing I can see. The fact is, it may come up in the very near future that I'm going to have to make a decision, not based on my work environment, not based on my coworkers, but on money. Please, members of the school board, you have the ability to end this impasse. Please work with us and give us comparable wages. Help us recruit and keep qualified teachers rather than losing new and enthusiastic teachers to neighboring districts that offer the respect and dignity that our profession deserves and earns every day. Do not make our decision here to stay here something that we regret. Let us do our jobs, but do not ask us to work for nothing. We deserve better than that. Thank you.
Thank you. After Nancy, we have Tessa Hernandez.
Hello, my name is Nancy Oplenop. I'm a special education teacher at River City High School, and I am so angry because you have the power to stop this. You've always had the power. You have the magic shoes, and yet you will not use them to stop this. And I don't understand why. I have the smallest class size of anyone at River City High School. I teach kids with moderate to severe disabilities. 2 of my students became homeless in the last 2 months. One had to leave the district. The other one is still here and really struggling. We have a lot of really tough issues to deal with. We have a lot going on, and we don't have time. Today, I had to leave work and walk over to Southport and hand out flyers and explain to parents exactly what's going on, that we've worked without a contract for the entire year, that you won't give us a raise, and people like Deb are going to leave. This is ridiculous, and it's gone on too long. I've been in this district 10 years, and the only reason that I have stayed in this district is because I have a second job that pays me almost as much as I make as a teacher. For a quarter of the hours that I put in. It's time to step up, folks. These people deserve a living wage. And you have the power to do it. And it's time to do it. Thank you.
Thank you. After Tessa, we have Vicki McDonald.
Thank you. I'm Shannon Woods, and I'm reading in behalf of Tessa.
Yes.
Hi, my name is Tessa Hernandez, and this is my 7th year at River City High School. I'm a certificated to teach Spanish and social sciences, a supplemental in English class, and also for PE. Here at River City, I have taught every level of Spanish, and I have even started a new level. Next year, I will teach the new freshman course, Get Focused, Stay Focused. I became the department chair of the World Languages Department in the middle of the year last year. The main reason I wanted the position was to hopefully gain some stability and consistency within the department. When I took over last year, I had seen 9 teachers filter through the department within 6 years. And after this year, we have lost almost 12 teachers. Last year, I attended the job fair at Sacramento State University to try to recruit teachers. I only met one viable candidate with 2 Spanish positions to fill. I had the opportunity to walk around the job fair, and we were by far the lowest paying district in the area. There were even schools offering signing bonuses. I've been on panels for hiring and have had people ask if the wages were negotiable because they would be taking a pay cut to work here. I'm trying my absolute hardest to retain teachers, but our unfair and uncomparable teacher salary makes my job feel impossible. I have some amazing teachers in my department, and most have mentioned at one time or another that they will eventually leave if they do not get a fair wage. Older, more veteran teachers at this school have asked me with great puzzlement why I'm still here. I guess part of me feels like I need to be loyal to River City. River City has invested so much in me and has sent me to multiple trainings a year. In fact, I went to 3 just last month. However, looking long term, I will have to do what's best for me. I live 26 miles away. As I drive to work every day, I drive through at least 4 districts that pay better than Washington Unified. Last year, everyone seemed pretty excited to get an 8% pay raise, but honestly, I was not. The salary increase still does not make our salary comparable with other districts. This puts stress on me to recruit and retain good teachers. I'm begging that you stop the impasse and give us a comparable wages to other school districts in the area so I can do my job and attract and retain teachers.
Thank you. After Vicki McDonald, we have Marlena Schroeder.
Good evening, members of the school board, Superintendent Luna, and everybody else. I hope I'm not disappointing anybody. By now you know that I am not Vicki McDonald. However, my name is Mike Buse. I'm a proud member of the Elkhorn Village teaching staff and vice president of the Washington Teachers Association. And I have been asked to read a letter on behalf of Miss Vicki McDonald, who wrote this letter for tonight. I am writing to show my support for all the teachers at River City High School. Many of the teachers go above and beyond what is required. I have 2 sons that attend River City, and I am very pleased with the support the teachers have shown for both boys. My older son, who is 17, has been involved in both football and rugby. Both of the coaches have put in a lot of their time to help him both on the field and off. Over the last 3 years, I have watched my older son become a better student and an outstanding citizen. I feel that he would not be the person he is today without the support of his teachers and coaches. My younger son struggled when he first started high school. He was very overwhelmed with the change from middle school. All of his teachers were very supportive and helped him adjust. Sometimes parents need support from teachers or coaches when their kids are struggling with school or in life. Every single time I have reached out to one of the teachers or coaches, they have been there willing to help. When you have teachers and coaches that really care about students, I feel they need to be taken care of. We have some of the best teachers and coaches at River City High School. As a community and parents, we need to make sure we keep the best teachers and coaches in our community. Our kids deserve the best, and right now they have the best. So I am asking all of you to make sure we keep the best here where they belong. Sincerely, Vicki McDonald. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. After we hear, I'm assuming you're going to read from Marlena Schroeder, then we have our last public comment for item L is Kate Foreman.
And I'll be reading both of those tonight. My name is Marlena Schroeder, and I'm a science teacher at River City High School. This is my 7th year on campus if you count my student teaching. I can honestly say that I have found a home here at River City and Washington Unified School District. I wanted to read this in person, but I had to schedule a sub for my second job, and that date changed, and so I was unable to find another sub to be here tonight. I have presented numerous times to the board, all of which have been positive. I've presented grant awards, student achievements, and successful programs. However, tonight I am coming from a disheartened and disappointed place. Here are the facts following are positions that I have held or currently hold in addition to my contracted employment. I applied for summer school specifically to teach the Summer Bridge program to aid transition for the 8th graders that need the most help. Lead teacher for the new course, Get Focused, Stay Focused. Created currently directed coordinated academic outreach, the only after-school program that targets low academic achieving students. The program that I have presented to the board numerous times and have been awarded $35,000 in grant money in 2 years. Science Club Advisor, Class Advisor for every year from grades 9 through 12. Project Lead the Way Coordinator, qualified and trained to teach principles of biomedical science and human body systems. YDI Trainer and Facilitator for Youth Development Network, presented for River City and other groups. AP Biology, Link Crew Trained and Current Coordinator. Academy Chemistry Teacher, Cheer Coach, on campus 7 days a week for tutoring help, so on and so forth. No teacher teaches for the money. In fact, it is a sadly used joke in society, the teacher's salary, despite the pay, hours, effort, tears, long nights, and working all summer, weekends, and breaks. I love to teach, guide, and lead our young people. I hope to spread a hunger for knowledge and open students' minds and opportunities available to them. Many times, parents and students will ask, why stay? Why don't you move home to San Diego? Why don't you go make more money? Such a simple answer. I love my job and I love my students. Embarrassingly, though, we find ourselves at the same place as we were last year. We have lost irreplaceable teachers. We are not asking to be paid more than a reasonable and fair wage, nor are we asking for money that the district doesn't have or that would take away from the students. I want to buy a house in the area. Sadly, there is no chance that I can afford it with the salary I earn, including the extra from the second job. Yes, I hold a second job. I want to have a family where my kids can go to school, to a school where I teach, just as my mother did. How can I justify staying with Washington Unified to my boyfriend, family, and myself, where I currently have had an offer to teach somewhere else for a $10,000 increase with a $9,000 signing bonus? The school is less than a mile from my house, while River City is more than 40 minutes. I will be a teacher for the rest of my life, and that is what I'm supposed to do. I want to stay in this district and be one of the proud employees for the next 30-plus years. I'm asking for you to show that myself and my colleagues are valued and wanted. Literally, as the saying goes, put your money where your mouth is. I leave you with this. You will not find a more dedicated educator than me. I will work for the students in this community, fight for the students in this community, and the relationships I build with our students and their families will last a lifetime. Please do not force me to choose between the Washington Unified School District students and their families and my own family. I am ready, willing, and more than able to go above and beyond the job description. The district claims to want the best for our students, the best facilities.
I'm going to have to stop you. I'm sorry.
And her last comment is, well, prove it.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry. And on behalf of Kate Foreman, this is much shorter.
Okay.
Since the impasse is at hand, Since the impasse at hand is about the numbers, allow me to run some numbers by you. 100, the average number of students at any given time that are on my grade books. 53, the current number of players, both boys and girls, registered to play rugby for next year. 150, the number of current Link Crew leaders I have advised and mentored over the course of last year. 150, the number of next Link leaders that I will be training over the next 3 months. 24, the number of Gay Straight Alliance Club members that I advise. 4, the number of foster youth kids I mentor. 12, the number of letters of recommendation I have written this year alone. 25, the number of students who completed their service learning projects with me. 550, the approximate number of incoming freshmen who will have a freshman orientation never before provided until Marlena Schroeder and I decided to have one. 21, the number of days that I've already scheduled over summer break to work. 0, the number I am paid to do any of the above listed items. I do this for my students and with my students. You are under the impression I work for you. Let me be clear that I do not. I work for my students, and just as I work for their best interest, it is mandatory that you work for my best interest. You should fight to keep not only me, but every teacher who proudly works for this district. At this juncture, teachers are being forced to make decisions that are anti-intuitive. We know we will have to stand up for ourselves. The board has made that abundantly clear. But in that effort, it will be the students who pay for our fight. Apparently, we are supposed to prove our worth, so in that effort, we are considering the halt of our optional services. We can refuse to walk at graduation. We can stop advising clubs. Personally, I could stop coaching rugby, and those 2 programs would default. I could stop prepping for freshman orientation and the 500 incoming freshmen that show up without a sense of belonging or understanding what it means to be a Raider. Your job is to protect this district and its students in this district, and you are failing. Because you are failing us, the teachers. We are not expendable, and we are not to be taken advantage of. You cannot continually withhold fiscal compensation and expect us to remain quiet. Our profession as a whole is wildly underpaid. I am charged with teaching emotional health, mental intelligence, and moral fortitude. In the job description and in itself demands a higher salary. And somehow we are standing here having to argue for a competitive salary. Every day I choose a 45-minute commute. I choose my students who are waiting by my door when I walk in. I choose to stay after school and coach teams for no stipend. I choose to answer the phone when a student calls at midnight because they have no place to go. I choose to give up my weekends and days off to work on behalf of my students in more ways than I can list here. But if you want me to continue to choose to do all of that in Washington Unified, you will pay me and every other teacher their worth. You will do it because it is the best interest of the district, our kids, and you'll do it because it's right, or we'll make other choices.
Okay, thank you to everyone that came out and spoke tonight. That concludes public comments. Next, we have item M, which is board and superintendent comments. Do we have anything from Board Member Posadi?
I do have a couple of comments, and one was just that since I missed last board meeting, I wanted to mention, I don't know if anybody had the opportunity to mention it, I went to a River City High School baseball game where Austin Roberts pitched a no-hitter, and I just wanted to make sure that he was properly commended for that. I thought that was fabulous. I got to see it, and it was just absolutely awesome. Also, I was at the carnival at the same time that night at the high school, and I got to see the science and robotics and the engineering programs there at the high school. Unbelievable what those kids can do with robotics. I was just absolutely shocked. My daughter got to drive around one of those little race cars, and I was just floored by that. So I just want to keep this short because I know we're going to go pretty late tonight. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Board Member Villegas?
I'd just like to say Happy Teacher Day and thank you all for coming out tonight. It's always important to hear from our teachers. I got to enjoy the Duck Dash at Southport, the color run. It was a great day in the rain. It was a bit wet, but there was a lot of good pancakes and a lot of paint to take off afterwards. And then I just wanted to bring the award that Washington Unified, along with the City of West Sacramento, the NCCT and the Yolo County Children's Alliance won in conjunction. It's the Sycamore Trail Partnership. I'm going to forget the name of it, the American Society for Public Administration. And it's a national organization, and we had a great dinner, and we're awarded this award. If you haven't seen the Sycamore Trail, it's behind Westfield, and it was a project that I worked on well before I was on the school board. So I'm pretty excited to see. It took about 10 years to come together. But it's a nice place, and there's a lot, that's phase 2, and there's about 10 phases to that program, so I look forward to seeing that. And I'm looking forward to the State of the City tomorrow. Thank you.
Board Member Alcala?
Thank you. On April 30th, I went out to the Culinary Academy, and it was so wonderful because our River City teachers were out there building planter boxes. Rotary was out there, we had parents and students. And it was really wonderful. There were a lot of hands and there were a lot of hearts out there. Our teachers actually, one of our River City teachers got the grant to build these boxes, and parents and teachers worked hand in hand. Way before 8 o'clock, these teachers were out there. So it was wonderful to see that. They built these planter boxes for the Culinary Academy. They're going to be planting all types of different vegetables and all. So it was just wonderful seeing the community come together like that. And I also went out to the Excellence in Education Awards in Woodland. They were wonderful. Once again, we were congratulating, and I believe there were about 300 in attendance. The wonderful work that our teachers at Washington Unified and our personnel, teachers and all our different staff, and the difference that they make in the lives of our children, how they enrich them. It was a wonderful program, but I'm hoping next year our Culinary Academy will be providing the food. They do such an excellent job. The food was nice, but our Culinary Academy really does a fantastic job, and we'd like to see that next year for them to participate. We'd also like to have a little music, and we have the most fantastic program here at River City High School with our bands and different music programs. So it'd be really great to have a little entertainment in the Excellence in Education Awards next year. And then I also went on May 6th, it was this last Friday, to our River City Job Fair. It was tremendous. We had actually, I was at a booth where we were trying to encourage young people to engage in civic participation, maybe have them think about running for school board, city council, state legislature, maybe Congress, maybe even the presidency someday. And I was at the booth, Maria Grijalva, and some of the parents had that booth encouraging civic engagement. It was very good, very informative. And then the only other thing I'd like to bring up is I sit on the progress. I wanted to give you an update on the progress of the Yolo County Preschool Advocates. And I sit on that board, and what we are exploring is a bond measure to provide a substantial number of preschool slots in Yolo County. It appears that we will be able to get this measure on the November 2016 ballot. And it's to create a sales tax designed to generate between $8 million and $16 million for preschool programs in Yolo County, as well as for transportation. So they would split the money. And what this really means is we would actually get 70% of the money projected to go to WUSD and Woodland because of the size and need that we have here. Now, it's imperative that WUSD plan for the creation of a preschool program for about 150 to 300 preschool slots, and that's what we would get with the new money. The greatest obstacle to preschool in Yolo County is facilities. That's one of the problems that we do have. But the preschool programs are the single most important factor in reducing the achievement gap. Now, we commissioned a study, I believe it was in 2016, the Yolo County Office of Education, and they asked the Harder Group to provide more recent and a more comprehensive study than the one we'd previously had in 2013. And I just want to read what the Harder Group said. The Harder Group found that West Sacramento had the largest number of preschoolers as follows. There are approximately 9,568 preschool-aged children in Yolo County. The greatest percentage, 33%, live in West Sacramento, followed by Woodland at 30%, Davis at 23%, rural Yolo at 11%, and Winters 3%. Now, one of the interesting and really startling facts that we found out is that of the 4 major cities in Yolo County, West Sacramento had the fewest children in preschool. So what I would like to propose is that we move forward, that WUSD explore plans to open a preschool at its Westmore Oaks facility to house maybe 150 to 300 preschool children in the event that the county sales tax is passed to fund preschool. This is really important because we know how early childhood education is very important. It makes a tremendous difference. And, you know, that's what helps bridge the achievement gap. So you give those children, the Harder Group tells us, if you give those children an early childhood education, by the time they're in 3rd grade, what is the saying? They're going to be reading to learn and not learning to read. So this is one of the things I want to propose as something that WUSD take a very active role in. And I believe that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll have to watch that closely and think about if that could be a placeholder maybe for future agenda items, especially as we watch what happens with the ballot. Yes, I pay much more than my mortgage to have 2 children in preschool, and I'm sure many people understand that. And if I was a single parent, I wouldn't qualify for our really high-quality programs, but I also wouldn't be able to afford the high-quality program I have. And there's so many people in that gap, and my heart just goes out to them. It is a struggle for us, but I'm very thankful that we're able to make it work, and it's a big issue that we need to talk about. Thank you. I don't have any committee updates that I've had. It's a very, very busy time, though, and one of the unintended consequences of having to move this meeting to tonight was that there's multiple open houses and events, and this is something that we will not be doing in the future. We will hopefully not ever have the chamber schedule an event again during one of our board meetings, and we certainly won't move a board meeting in that event in the future. And so I really appreciate everybody coming out who's doing two things at once tonight. It was a busy night. I did get by very quickly Bridgeway Elementary School just to wave and walk through some of the classrooms where my daughter's going to go into kindergarten, and she was very excited. She went right to the reading corner and sat down and just right away felt comfortable. All of our classrooms feel like that. They all feel comfortable. And in our meetings, we're celebrating the good work that is happening all the time in this district, and it would not happen without the people who make it happen. It doesn't matter what curriculum we buy or anything else if we don't have good people. So thank you. And that takes us to our information discussion items. So we have N1, Measure V Bond Update Presentation with Kevin Sanders, who's the Director of Facilities. And we do have 2 public comments after you're done with your presentation.
Good evening, Board, Cabinet, Superintendent Luna. I've put together a brief presentation kind of showing Measure V as a whole, where we've come from, where we're going, what's been spent, and then in the second half, we'll kind of go over some of the River City additional things that we have going on out there as well. So with that, we'll jump in. In 2014, the board put together a project priority list of projects. This is how the funding was allocated and put together at that time. $47 million is what that was originally looking like. What's happened since we've come into a better market, if you look at this slide, we've actually picked up $2.8 million based on when the bonds were sold. What this does is this shows you a list of projects that we have currently completed. As you'll see, they're lined out in red, and what projects are scheduled on the board based on the 2014 allocation of what we have moving forward. Okay. Series 1 of the bond, what was passed was $24,900,000. You can see where we've spent the money out of the Series 1, Culinary, Westfield, the Bright Fire Alarm, the Bridgeway Island Cade expansion. So out of that, we're looking at $10.5 million left over from that. Series 2, which is scheduled to sell next July, 24.9. So that puts us at a current total of remaining funds at 35.4 and change. With that, on the left, you'll see a list that I have. It's the same list kind of carried over, showing you what the project's been completed, what we have still outstanding. And on the right is the list of projects that we're looking at, kind of where the funds have been allocated and how we're looking at moving forward. So if you move down the list, there's River City High School. Per the original list, there's Bright Phase 2. What's left out of the Phase 1 funds for the first half. And then you have some urgent needs that we've identified in facilities, along with maintenance, operation, transportation, to kind of help us put this together. So you have some fire alarm systems that are antiquated and outdated that we're looking at updating. You have many ADA issues at the sites that we're looking at fixing. And then most of our roofs are still outdated, so we're in the process of bringing those current. So this kind of is a tally of kind of showing where the dollars we're looking at forward going based on what the previous assessment was. So on this one here, I want to kind of pause for a moment. We recently went out and did a presentation to the River City High staff. And one of the things that was brought to my attention was what the original plan was back in 2014. So I wanted to bring that and show it here. What this is, back in 2014, there were 20 rooms that were originally planned for that campus. They were, general reduced classrooms, non-wet. If you don't know what that means, wet means there's no running water in those specific facility classrooms themselves. Okay. With that in mind, the estimated cost in 2005 was $22 million. Current market conditions, it's 27 million. We're in an economy that's climbing. Construction's costs are high. I mean, things are really booming in that industry to be a contractor right now. So with that in mind, that kind of gives you a breakdown of where things sit now versus then. If we're looking at putting a building on River City High, the top left arrow there kind of shows depicts where the building would be placed. And then also what it does is it allows you and leaves you future room for another building in future allocations of funds. So that's kind of a site overall campus kind showing where the new building would go. Okay. So some of the options that were presented to the staff, you can look here. There are two. The one to the right is the $10 million option, which is 10 general use classrooms, non-wet. And the other option is we could do wet classrooms, science classrooms. As you'll see on the left here, would be about an additional $100,000 per classroom added to that cost. This is a rendering of what the building would look like. As you can tell, we've taken the measures to adhere to the existing campus standards and conditions. We want to make sure the building fits in. It's not a sore thumb, a third wheel that just doesn't fit and look in place. So this kind of gives you some of the renderings of the existing campus of what they have. So for a recap of the building cost, you have 2005, you have the 20 rooms for 22, 2017, what it would be now to do those rooms. We have the proposed $10 million building that you guys approved back in 2014. And then there's also the option of adding the science classrooms that we could do. And it's kind of giving you a little overview of what those costs would be. Okay. So this here is the facility usage. This kind of shows you some of the demographics of where River City currently is. You can see the 2014-15 projection, enrollments where they're at. You can see the loading rates at the bottom of 22-1 up to 33-1 that are identified there. Kind of giving you an overall idea of what their load capacity is versus buildings and what that site would need. So just to kind of jump back and recap, you have a couple options. The first one is to continue down the 2004 approved pathways for allocating of bond funds. Option two is to do the 10 classrooms, or possibly make them 8 and do science rooms and have 4 of them be wet. And then option three, this kind of shows you if you were to take the overall remaining bond funds and what you would allocate to that site, you would have $8.5 million left for the other projects. So you would be very selective. You might maybe get Bright Phase 2, that would be it, completed in that fund. So you'd have a lot of open areas that there were commitments on that you would have to reconsider doing and moving those funds around. Any questions or comments?
Okay, we have 2 blue slips, so let's do those at those time, and then we can have our comments. That sounds good. Okay, the first is Dawn Stauffer, and then we have Bernadette Austin.
Hello again. So I'm happy that Facilities has brought this forward as an information item tonight, and I'm glad we're beginning to have this discussion. I have to say, though, and I promised I was going to be positive tonight, but, you know, it's been 1.5 years since the bond was passed, and the conversations about what was going to happen at the high school, as well as the remainder of the district, could have happened a while ago, and it didn't. And so that's my disappointment. I think, you know, we're presented here with actually a solution that was decided upon without any input from stakeholders. And I think before any solution is determined, that we really need to look at our needs very seriously. Is the classroom that they're proposing the best solution for our issues? Are there other alternatives that we can look at if the original building is too expensive to build at this time? I know we're going to have lots of changes in our facility use. We have the new classrooms proposed for Bright. We are going to be bringing back another campus into our district, which is going to have classroom space available. So there are lots of things going on that I think need to be considered before we determine to spend a whole bunch of money on a brand-new building at the high school. And I'm hoping that now the district will move forward with the conversations that need to happen. Thank you.
Okay, Bernadette Austin.
Well, good evening, Vice President Kirby-Gonzalez and members of the board. Tonight I'm speaking to you as a parent and board member for the James Marshall Parent Participation Nursery School. We've been working pretty closely with our principal, Ramos, who's been an excellent partner for us. Just want to acknowledge him. And we just wanted to express to you some of our concerns about the certainty of the future of our preschool. As you're probably aware, hopefully you're aware, our school has been serving the West Sacramento community for 62 years. And we've been at 920 West Acre, the same location as the school board or the school administration facility since 1963. So we've been there probably longer than I think maybe all of you have been alive. Not only that, we also have our school director, Mrs. Brown, has been, she's currently teaching her third generation of students there, which is incredible. I think some people might know Mrs. Brown. She's been around forever. We serve 50 preschool students annually. Again, as you may know, our preschool is a first and only preschool, cooperative preschool of its kind in our entire city. Except for the 2 teachers, we are an entirely 100% volunteer-run organization, and we have an annual budget of in the ballpark of $50,000. So we're a really small operation. So bearing that in mind, we are lucky enough to have the location of our school, the room that we currently occupy, as part of the bond measure of what's getting renovated. And we just want to have some certainty as we move forward in our school year about what that's going to look like, how quickly the renovations will happen, whether we'll be able to return to the same school site, and if we can't, what sort of interim measures can happen. So we look forward to working very closely with your facility staff and hope that you all continue to be an advocate for us as this moves forward. I was so inspired to hear Member Akala talk about how important preschool is. Just to give you a sense of who we serve at James Marshall Preschool, we are one of the region's most affordable preschools in the entire region for people who don't need to income qualify. So I'll tell you just kind of a cross-section of our work of the people who come to our school. The parents of our children are teachers, social workers, firefighters, police officers, small business owners right here in West Sacramento, and the people who work in our restaurants and grocery stores. So these are people who probably don't qualify for some of the subsidized preschools, and yet they really can't afford several $100s or more, upward in the 4 figures, for childcare. So this allows parents to continue to work and gives our students a leg up and a chance to get ahead and really build the skills that they need to be successful. So we really appreciate your support, and we hope that we'll continue to be able to work with the administration moving forward. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for speaking and for what you do too at James Marshall. And great program. Okay, do we have questions from the board?
I have a question. Okay. Scott, can you tell me where the gate is at Westfield? I know I always ask you about this, but is that paid for? Is it done yet? Is it going to get happen?
The gate that's going out front of Westfield?
Yeah.
It's going in this summer. It's currently in design. We're actually doing one at Westfield and also at Elkhorn as well.
Good.
Yeah, so the gate's shifting back, so they'll have a door into the admin, so it'll be a controlled entrance. Absolutely.
Okay. That was my
I do have a question. So how far along are we on the initial proposed construction that we had with the measure? How far along are we?
So if you're referring to the program as a whole?
Yes.
We have brought the new firms on, and we are currently in a design development phase still at this point. So we're just touching base right now with Bright Phase 2, River City High School. It's all preliminary. It's all just kind of out there right now, just coming together.
So I guess I'm asking, how much of the construction has actually taken place?
No construction in the field. No boots on the ground now.
Board Member McCall, I think what you're asking out of the entire $49.8 million, how
Yes.
much have we spent to date on construction?
Yes.
It's about 14 million. If I recall the slide, I think it was slide 4 showed you how much money came in, the 24.9, there's about $10 million left. So we spent about $14 million in between Bright Phase 1, Bridgeway Island expansion, and the fire alarm and some additional roofing projects that were done. It's about 14 million.
So we're on budget and,
Absolutely. Actually, we're below budget, yeah.
I think when you look at, can you bring the presentation back up, please? When you look at how a bond program gets put together, and you came up in 2014, that's going the wrong way. I want to go this way, I'm sorry. You had a preliminary budget that said, here's how we think $47 million is going to get spent. And we do pretty good at estimating, but we can never get it to the penny. So as you go through the program, you end up spending to the penny. And so this slide here shows you to date what has been spent to the penny out of that first allocation of bonds. And as Kevin said, when we first brought this to you, we were expecting $47 million. And if you recall, for those of you who were here when we first issued that first series, we got a great buy. We got a fantastic interest rate. We kind of changed the way that the bonds were actually being sold. And instead of getting $47 million for projects, we got 49.8. So there's another $2.8 million that he's incorporated in here that will end up coming back and rolling through. But absolutely on budget with what we said we were going to do. What we clearly heard from the board was Bright City Phase 1, Bridgeway Island additional building, and we came back and said we have an issue with the fire alarm, so we approved for that. So now we're ready to go into the second part of it, which was River City High School. As Kevin said, when they went out and they had the conversation, there were some differences of opinion as far as how that should move forward. So we're bringing information back to the board tonight, not to get a decision from the board, but to get your insight as to where you may want to go. We'll bring this back again in a couple weeks. We're not looking for direction tonight. We want you to look at the presentation, think about it. We'll come back in 2 weeks. We'll talk about it again, and you can give us an idea of where you want to go with some of the options that Kevin has here. And I appreciate Mr. Stoffer's comments. We may need to look at River City High and decide exactly what we want to do with that site, given the projected population and how the site is being used.
I was just going to say, I mean, before, we got a lot of input from stakeholders, so I think it's really important that future decisions also include a lot of folks in this. I mean, especially, input from faculty there. I mean, they're a big component there. They understand what the needs are in those schools. So I think that's very important.
Agreed. And again, I think it's interesting that the timing, because what was taken out to the River City High School staff was a conceptual plan on what could function within a $10 million budget. And that's where we were hearing, well, we think there's some other things that need to be considered. Hence, 2 weeks ago, we pulled the entire program off of the agenda so that we could have this conversation, let you guys think about it, and in a couple weeks go, here's a path that we want to continue down, decide how the money moves around, then we can continue those conversations.
Thank you.
Okay, I have a couple comments as well. Thank you. This was very, very helpful to look through this, so I really appreciated it. I agree that we do need a lot of input for stakeholders. I don't feel comfortable, myself sitting here making a decision on what type of building that we need to have. And so the more input that we can get from the people who work it every day, the families, the parents, the better. And we have board members, many of us up here worked hard. We put on our tennis shoes, we went door to door, and we knocked and knocked and knocked, and it was overwhelming response in the city. They voted for it, and they didn't just vote for it, they really voted for it. And so we had a big obligation, though. When I would stand on somebody's patio and talk to them about why they need to vote for this bond, they said to me things like, well, how do I know they're going to spend their money right? And it wasn't about Washington Unified. It was kind of those themes of conversations you have wherever you are asking to raise taxes. and we stood there and talked about how there will be dialogue, and you can hold us accountable, and we will do the best we can with this money. And I think we are doing really good things with this money. I think that the communication, we just need to really work on that piece. I see a lot of great things happening, roofs going on maybe during the middle of class time instruction, which can be hard, but it's good. Good stuff is happening all over. And so I want to be able to go and say, that right there, that's the bond money, that's what you help pay for. And so the more that we get this, it will just help us to go out in the community and to share this is what's going on. And the more it can be on the website as well, and with our Measure V committee, the better. Because, and then when I look at thinking about the money and the conversations we had back when we worked to get folks to support this, it's really how many students does this project touch? How many students are going to be impacted? And then number two would be the health and safety of our employees and our students. And so I think those are the two really critical ones. And I know we talked about some things, and we could always use more money, but we talked about things like some breakaway gates and some safety components, that maybe there are some places where we could put some of those in, because my heart does sink looking at some of these big amounts of money at just one or two places and thinking, how many kids are affected? Do we have any health and safety needs anywhere else? So.
Agreed.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And then I also wonder, moving forward as conversations to have later, is if there are any more grant opportunities we could go for. I know that at Bright, a lot of that money was grant that helped us.
I think what we can bring back to you too, because we talked about, the Measure V bond being a source for facilities, and we were using it in combination with other programs, the emergency repair program, with the certificate of participation for solar, and some other funding sources that we have. So I think what would be good also to bring back to you and to show you the work that we've done on that, because like you saw a line in here for $500,000 for roofing. Well, that was to augment the millions of dollars that we were using in ERP money to do the roofing projects that you talked about that unfortunately were happening when class was in session, because the time frames that we were working on didn't say do it during the summer. So I think it would be good to bring you a crosswalk to show you the different funding sources that we've been pulling together, so that I guess the best way to say it is to spend the state's money first, and then we'll spend the community's money second. And that's really the focus that we've had, is spending those other sources that are coming from outside of West Sacramento first, and then using Measure V to backfill and or do some of the projects that we can't get state funding for. So we'll bring you a crosswalk on that.
Perfect, thank you. That would be fabulous. And does anyone else have a comment?
I was just going to ask, I know there's a bond measure for matching monies, state bond measure. My understanding is if there's an existing bond with monies that haven't been used, that they may get matching, assuming it passes. Would we get those matching monies as well?
It's possible. I mean, it depends on the particular project, and what we can do with as we watch that state level bond for facilities. If that program looks like it's going to at least hit the ballot, then we'll go back to some of the firms that we're under contract with to do an analysis of the bond program that we have and what we're building, and see what qualifies depending on the ballot language for that state initiative. So it is possible.
Okay, and then we can get this on the website, the Measure V on the district, perfect. And then I assume this summer, the work that is going on at district office will also include James Marshall. That's the same timeline, would it be?
Currently, no work is going on at the district office. The cost for the district office project came in incredibly high. So the only work we're doing at the district office was a solar array that went in, and the parking lot in the back had to be done because we were using an old playground as a parking lot and was falling apart. So once we get that done, there's no additional work that we're planning on doing right now. The James Marshall preschool itself, as far as where it sits, there's some remediation that needs to be done in that room, but that is not a Measure V project.
Okay. So the discussion that we had about moving staff to portables and changing, that's on hold right now at district office?
That's correct. The cost was,
okay.
It was pretty silly.
Okay, all right. And then James Marshall will have an update on the timeline of what you were discussing? Perfect. Okay, thank you. All right. Thank you. Then with that, we will
Thank you.
move on to item N2, which is update on instructional calendar for 2017-2018 school year. And that would be Michael Reed, Assistant Superintendent, Human Resources.
Good evening, members of the board. I always love being on camera because my best side shows from back. It's fantastic. So just providing you an update on the instructional calendar for the 2017-18 school year. As you know, the District Calendar Committee adopted guidelines several years ago to ensure that the instructional calendars for all the district schools have consistent start date, end dates, holidays, and meet the instructional needs of our students. The District Instructional Committee was tasked with developing a calendar that best meets the instructional needs of our students. The primary goal was to build a calendar that allows our high school students to finish the fall semester prior to the winter break. Doing so would alleviate two concerns, and that would be that our students could potentially be losing academic momentum by taking a 2-week break just before finals. And the concern of that having a negative impact on student grades, particularly those students who are vying for college entrance. So we're bringing this forward this evening as a discussion item, and we'll be asking for your approval at a next scheduled board meeting.
Okay, is there any discussion from the board?
The spring break thing, that we coordinate our meetings. That we coordinate our meetings with the spring break, so staff don't have to come back and parents and teachers don't have to come back, so. That's us, not you.
March 29th, right?
No.
Do we make a motion for this?
No.
No.
It's all right.
No, just any comments here. Okay, and I would just ask that we make sure to share this so folks know and maybe see it before it comes to our next board meeting, if it could be maybe on our website. I don't know if we would do that before we
Absolutely.
put through, but a proposed calendar, or if there's a way that we can share it, since it would be a change
Okay.
for staff. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
I was just going to say, it's really helpful for the parents also if they can see this ahead of time, because a lot of folks, plan their vacations around this. It's good.
Okay. Okay, then next we have N3, which is Local Control Accountability Plan, and that is with Superintendent Linda Luna.
Good evening, Board of Trustees. I'm just going to give a brief update on the LCAP. I did have a superintendent update, but I think I'll save that for the next meeting, and I'll honor teachers that night as well. I do have one, but that's okay. We're going to keep going here. So in our local control accountability plan, the month of June is the time when all school districts bring to the Board of Trustees the Local Control Accountability Plan, which is a 3-year plan that is required to hold a school district accountable to all of the funds that are allocated to the district in terms of the local control funding formula. So we wanted to give the board an update as work has been going on throughout the year, particularly with the Parent Advisory Committee, particularly with finding out if the district is truly achieving the metrics that are in place that we're being held accountable for. So we're going to give you a quick update on this here. We have 5 goals in Washington Unified on our LCAP. So the first goal has to do with the overarching umbrella of 21st century skills, and that has to do with all of the work that we are moving forward in helping every single student in Washington Unified to be college and career ready, to have choices, to have opportunities. The second goal that we have in our accountability plan is about educational opportunities. This means that we want to make sure that our kids have choices, that they have different opportunities. As we know, all of our students are unique individuals, and we want to inspire all of our students to meet their aspirations, whether it is college, whether it is graduating from high school and then entering into a boot camp to all of a sudden go into a high-paying job. So there's lots of different opportunities that our students can have. The other thing that would fall under this is how the board is moving to provide different options of learning for our students, such as bringing in the early college prep charter school and transitioning into a dual enrollment to help our families cut those costs for community college tuition. So those all fall under that umbrella. The third goal that we have is about high-quality teaching and learning, where all of our instruction is transitioned into the new California standards, the new assessments, more CTE pathways, and more CTE grounding, such as our 9th grade course that we will have all of our kids taking next year. All of that work falls under these goals. The fourth goal of our LCAP is about school climate, where we are constantly working towards bettering how we want to keep our campuses safe, how we want to have a nurturing campus, a nurturing collaboration amongst our learning communities. And lastly, our final goal is about parent engagement, where we can increase our parent participation, not by just being on the campus or helping us with PTA activities or just helping us to sell things at events, but truly being a part of the learning, truly being a partner in the education where they can help their children at home with these new standards, and us as a school district reaching out to our parents and bringing them as our true partners. So those are our 5 overarching goals in our LCAP that have been since the original document. We've just pared it down to make it a little bit more concise. So here are some of the action steps that the district has taken into account for helping to reach those 5 goals. And what you'll see, particularly on this one slide, is that we are addressing the what we call the whole child, where we are expanding our VAPA programs and extending it out so that all students in the district receive visual and performing arts. And that was a commitment and a promise in the LCAP, and we have helped it to come to fruition at this next year on every campus. So you've also heard lots of work about our technology and how our Innovative Educators program has just been flourishing. So we are truly committed to the goals that were set forth in our LCAP, and we are truly committed to making our actions and steps very strategic for our kids. Here are the rest of the action steps that specifically are in the LCAP. And what I'll just bring your attention to the 3rd and the 4th bullet. Those 3rd and 4th bullets specifically come from the concentration and supplemental funds of our LCAP to truly address the needs of our students and families of poverty, of our families that are our students who are in foster care or families in transition, our English learner students. This is really to address the whole needs of our students and ensure that when they come to school, they're ready to learn. And this just really helps in that area. The last bullet there is how we have increased our communication in our community, such as the use of constant contact, where we have now gone from just a few hundred parents at the beginning of the school year receiving communication about the district. Now we're out to thousands. And not just in West Sacramento, but all over the region. So that's, we're really committed to ensuring that we meet the goals and the commitments that the board had originally approved in the LCAP. So our next steps are we will have one more Parent Advisory Committee meeting this month in May. And we've had 4 or 5 already, and they've been absolutely wonderful, where every school has had parents involved, understanding what these goals mean, what their suggestions might be, what they would love to see in terms of programs and how we spend our LCFF dollars for our children. So we have one more meeting in May, and that meeting is required for them to look at the final draft of the LCAP before it comes to the board. So the board will review in the month of June the blessed LCAP from our Parent Advisory Committee, which is required of the process. We'll go through a public hearing at our first meeting in June, on June 9th, in which the public or anybody can make comments regarding the LCAP goals for these next 3 years and the actions that are being put in place, the dollars that are being allocated towards it. And then the final approval will come to the board on June 23rd. And just also a note that I didn't put on the slide is that while the LCAP is being approved and reviewed, the 3-year budget, the projected budgets, a multi-year budget will also be reviewed at the same time. Any questions about our LCAP?
I think that's great, and I appreciate the progress that we've made. That's wonderful. The only concern that I have is I know we do a great parent, the PQ or the Parent
PK.
University. PK, thanks. And just wondering how we can get these new teaching methods out to parents so they can help their kids with homework. And do we have a plan to do that? Or?
Yeah, I believe the LCAP addresses the parent education. I think PK is, I know PK is part of the LCAP. I think there is also some concepts of parent universities where parents can come to math nights or language arts nights or writing nights or tears with homework kind of nights, just some basic strategies that can help the parents with their children at home. I think that's all part of that partnership.
I do too.
Of of all of us working together on behalf of children. So there are components of that. I'm going to go back with your comment and review it a little bit closer and find out the specific steps that we have for that particular bullet.
And just so I know, the PQ only happens at one school, right?
PK is going to be expanded to more schools.
Good, that's
Yes.
great. Thanks.
Linda, I just want to say I'm really glad that WSD has been vigilant with the LCAP money. The oversight's been great. I know
Thank you.
some districts in California haven't been, so it's great that we have.
Yeah, I've been hearing comments that the governor has been asking questions of whether school districts are using their supplemental and concentration funds for students. And I can assure you, Washington Unified School District is truly allocating the supplemental concentration funds specifically for addressing the needs of English learners, socioeconomic challenged families, our foster youth, our families in transition, most definitely.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Great, thank you so much.
Thank you very much. You've helped us a lot with the LCAP and breaking it down, and we really appreciate it. Thank you. Okay, our next item is item N, California Voting Rights Act and Board Trustee Areas. And this is for board discussion here tonight. I do have blue slips on this. And so we'll go right into that. Okay, the first blue slip is Marigal Dazo, if you could come up. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong.
Margarita Dazo.
Oh, okay. Margarita Dazo.
Good evening, members of the board. I would like to go last, please.
Okay, then we have Mariana Estes. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Good evening, members of the board and Superintendent Luna. My name is Marianne Estes. And I've been a resident of Broderick for nearly 50 years. I attended all the schools here. I graduated from Washington High School, which is now Riverbank Elementary. My son graduated from River City. And I've been advocating for my community on different levels throughout the years in civic engagement and other volunteer opportunities. So I know we're talking about the California voting rights issue that's before you. And I was interested in this because when dealing with, because I do believe that we do need to have representation on boards and commissions. I've served on boards in the past, I'm very committed to doing that. But looking at changing the structure of the board, anytime I've faced having to deal with dismantling something and looking at it to improve it, the question I have to ask is, what are we solving for? What are we trying to improve? What's broken? So it appears that this act was designed to ensure that minority groups have the ability to select candidates of their choice at at-large elections, and I completely agree with that. So I went on the website of the elections, and I looked at the general elections for the past 3 years. 2010, we voted in for this board Sandra Vargas and Adam Menke. 2012, we voted in Katie Villegas, Alicia Cruz, and Mary Leland. In 2014, we voted in Norma Alcala and Sarah Kirby Gonzalez. So based on these results, the community did vote in at least three elections, Latinas that reside in the northern part of West Sacramento, the Broderick area. So that's a good thing. According to the census, the 2010 census, West Sacramento, 31.4% of the population designates themselves, their ethnicity as Latino. So if you want to mirror that percentage to a 5-member board, you would need 1.5 Latinos to match that percentage. Well, luckily, we have 2. So I'm afraid that if you go into splitting and bifurcating the district, we may lose 1 or more of these seats, and that would be a tragedy. So again, I ask, what are we solving for? It's going to take a lot of time and energy to enact the issues that the voting right requires. There have been a lot of studies about our students. This district is dealing with a lot of serious issues with test scores, dropout rates, the need for social services, providing healthy options for our students, and listening to the accountability plan, listening to our teachers that need a viable contract agreement. There's a lot on your plate. And in looking at how do you solve these problems, and looking at studies and whatnot, I've never once read that in order to solve these problems, you bifurcate your district and you create separate trustee areas. That just has never come up as a solution to dealing with the problems that you guys have. So what I suggest to you tonight is that you really spend your time dealing with the issues that I've heard tonight.
I'm going to have to ask you to wrap it.
Right, yes, okay, so I also think West Sacramento is too small to be bifurcated, because I, as a voter, want all of you to be accountable to me for my vote, and I know other people feel the same way. So I'd rather have all of you be able to vote you in or out, and not just one of you. That's that's my message tonight. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, we have Antoine Bastien Van der Meer. I apologize for any name mispronunciations.
Good evening, board members. My name is Antoine Bastien Van der Meer. I'm Mexican. I was born in Mexico City. I have native fluency in Spanish. I live in northwest Sacramento in the Broderick area. My wife and I moved here about 4.5 years ago. We don't have children. So you're wondering, what am I doing here at a school board meeting? Well, I'm here to support Maria Grijalva and all my Latino friends in the Broderick community. Now, I'm going to give you some kind of like my perceptions as a school outsider based on comments from the people I interact with. I live in the Rivers subdivision. So I'll first give you the perceptions I have of the school board and why I think that those perceptions make it imperative that you have a single member, district elections. I'll start off with the perceptions of the school boards itself. The only feedback I've received or perceptions I received is about member Norma Alcala. She has, apparently, the people I deal with, they have very high opinions of her. The rest of you guys, I'm sorry, I haven't heard much about it, but anyway, the perception I have, I go to my friends, my neighbors, the people who have children. They're very disappointed in the school system that they have in North, the Broderick area. I have friends who pay extra money to send their kids to a private school because they don't feel that the schools in their area are adequate enough for their children. And that's kind of sad because they're paying taxes plus tuition. So you have that, and I'm wondering, well, other comments about the school district. My Mexican friends also are, they feel as though they're left behind. Like all the money goes to Southport. We don't have any of the nice facilities. We don't have the money. The money all goes to the south where the money is. And they feel kind of disenfranchised. And even though they can elect, competent people and people who receive nice feedback like Norma Alcala, they still feel like they just don't have a voice. They don't have a vote. And they would like to have their own representative, somebody who comes from their district who they can elect. And I think it's more of, it's a psychological thing as well. They want to feel like they have their own representative instead of just being left up there in the north and apparently ignored. And that isn't only with the school board, but it's with all the other city services, that kind of, perception. So I think it's important that the Broderick area and has its own representative. At least then they can feel like they have their own voice on the school board. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Maria Gualva.
Good evening, school board members. The decision of single-member district representation is pretty cut and dry, to most anyone anyway, unless, of course, you are a school board member. In fact, if you are a school board member, suddenly I think you might lose your objectivity and become subjective, and the matter becomes rather personal. I think the matter of single-member districts came up in 2012 already for this school board. I'm not sure if all of you were here. I know Kobe wasn't, but it was not acted on back then. It was just mentioned. And then in June 2015, the subject came back up, and it was decided that once we got Superintendent Luna, then it would be back on the table for discussion or for consideration. Yet, we've known that it's already been a year since Superintendent Luna's been here, and we've not heard any word of this. And so it's obvious that this has already been mentioned, talked about, and it's been simply ignored. And so I don't think we need to ignore this. I think today you have a recommendation, 3 recommendations, I believe, and I don't think another analysis needs to be made. The analysis was already made. I think it's just obvious that we have to have single-member representation. The most perfect example of this is when we were here the last time and we mentioned the gang injunction. Some of you folks didn't realize how the Broderick area is being impacted by the gang injunction. This is a perfect example of why we need a representative from the area. How can you not know what's going on in Broderick? How can you not know about the gang injunction? How can you not know? Okay, so there's absolutely no excuse whatsoever. It's obvious that single-member district is required practically by the law. We want to implement a democracy, and it's really your obligation to do it, and we look to you as leaders. Sometimes it seems like we're going to be giving up something, and what you're actually giving up is actually for the better of the whole. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Up next, we have Mariana Rivera.
Good evening, board members. Nice to be here with you. I wanted to talk about, what's the process? How are you going to do it? Do you know anything about it? And probably you'd say no, right? And so I want to just say that it's a simple process. There's simple forms to fill out. It's doable. Other districts have done it. It means we're not going to accept status quo, that we'd like to see things change. We'd like to bring democracy to West Sacramento, and we want board members to be accountable to their communities. You can be accountable to the whole city of West Sacramento, or you can be responsible for the people who live in your same neighborhood who are going to ask you to represent their interests. And I think sometimes those interests are different, and so it's valuable. So the first thing is the attorney is going to provide to the district, wait a second, let me see. The first is the legal counsel will provide a timeline, the resolution, notices, waiver application, documents to the district. Secondly, a redistricting committee formed by you. You would appoint the people who are on it, okay? So that person that committee would meet with a demographer who would develop the map plans to see if we could do this. They would come up with some draft plans, and they would share it at public meetings, a couple of public meetings. The demographer will give the drafted plans to the superintendent. The superintendent passes them on to the attorney. They get reviewed. They go back and forth a little bit, and then the changes would be made by the demographer of any things that you want to change. There'd have to be public notices, right, put out. You would have to consult with the unions, with the bargaining units. You'd have to consult with the DLACs and the school site councils and all the other stakeholders, right? You have to consult with them and see what they think. And then you would look at what they think and consider that, right? So then you put together a board packet that includes the resolution and all of those things, and the waivers of an election and things that go to the State Board of Education. It's not a tough process. They did it in Woodland, and I'm hoping that we would follow what they did. It's a real easy, I'm looking at what they did. It seems like from between 6 months and a year to get it done. But we could do that, and we would have, I believe that we'd bring democracy to West Sacramento, and I hope that you would consider following that process and learning more about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Ruth Ibarra, and after that will be Ed Castorina.
Good evening. So what does this mean? Mariana kind of just outlined the process of becoming a single-member district, At the end of the day, what's the fear? That you're going to lose your positions? All of a sudden, you become single members, and at doing so, you're going to lose your position as a board member? Well, that's really not what happens. You get to keep your office until your term runs out. So, for example, Kobe, if you were to win November, elected in November, you get to term out 4 years later. So what's the other fear? That you guys will be creating these maps and you will end up running in the same district. Well, first of all, you get to put somebody on that committee to ensure that that doesn't happen, right? And second of all, you're going to have to approve those maps yourselves. But at the end of the day, so what if you run against each other, right? That's part of democracy. That's what it is. And it's going to happen eventually, and hopefully with your help and your stuff. So in the end, is people's right to democracy less important than your right to keep your position forever? I don't think so. I think that single member districts would bring democracy to Washington Unified School District. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Ed Castorina. And then we have Serenia Rodriguez.
Good evening, school board members. I'll try to get my thoughts together here. I've been a lifelong resident of Broderick My father moved here in 1953. Graduated here. My wife graduated here. My daughters graduated here. My granddaughters graduated here. I really want a single district representation. I think it's the right way to go. I think the people in all areas should have the voice that they need. They all have their own interests. But I think on the north side, they really need the representation to continue as it is now. I'm hoping that, not exactly now, but single district. Because it's representation from your neighbors, people that you know. The elections are more fair for people, cheaper to run, and you don't have to be rich to win. You have to be from your district to represent your people. So I really believe in that, and I hope you will consider that seriously. We sure do. Thank you.
Thank you. Sereno, Rodriguez, and then we have Juliana Tellis.
Thank you very much. I was asked by members of the community to share our experiences in Woodland. I'm not Sacramento, I'm from Woodland. I was 10 years on the Yolo County Board of Education. In 2009, we received a letter from an attorney group in San Francisco threatening to sue the school districts because they felt that Washington, Woodland, Esparto, and Winters were in violation of the California Voting Rights Act. As a member of that Board of Education, we sent letters to the superintendent of all the districts. 3 districts responded positively: Woodland, Winters, and Esparto. Esparto is a very small school district, and they redistricted. Winters is very small, and they also went to a district and eliminated at large. Woodland did it in 2011. Later on in 2012, we got another letter from the people in San Francisco. We once again, I was still on the board, sent a letter to West Sacramento, and they completely, said that we're going to do this and do that, and they really haven't done anything. From the letters that we received from that firm, and it was their belief that West Sacramento is in violation of the California voting rights. We had 2 choices in Woodland as well. We either do it voluntarily or a group in the community can sue us. And the district board of trustees decided to voluntarily go into a district and eliminate at large. We also, the members of the community, went to the city council in Woodland, and they also have the same choice. You either do it voluntarily or a group in the community is going to sue you. Now, the history of legal cases, all districts and all cities that have opposed the Voting Rights Act and gone to court have lost. And it has cost millions and millions of dollars. And the law is written in a way that if you lose, you pay your legal fees and you pay the legal fees of the other people as well. I wasn't willing to, as a citizen and as a board member, go into the community and say, we're going to fight this because it makes no sense, and then spend millions of dollars that we needed in the school district. Now, also, as a faculty member, retired, I have done a significant amount of research on at-large versus district, and the evidence is clear. At-large districts were created specifically to disenfranchise ethnic communities. And in California, protected classes, African Americans, Latinos, Asians, and Native Americans, those are the groups that are included, I believe, in the Voting Rights Act. And if any one of those groups is excluded or there is polarized voting against them, that community has a right to go into the courts and take the district. So for us in Woodland, it was best to comply with the law and voluntarily serve. And contrary to what you may have heard, And Woodland is working well. We had 2 elections, 2012
to ask you to
and
wrap it up.
2014. And in the city of Woodland, it's coming up for election in November. There are 3 seats available, and all of them are being competitive. So anyways,
you.
if you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to respond and to share my experiences in Woodland. And
Thank you, Sonia. We have more public comments, so
Thank
I'm
you.
going to go to the next one. Thank you. Juliana Tallis. And then our last blue slip I have is Monica Reeves.
Good evening, board members. I live in the north part of West Sacramento and Broderick. I do not want the school board member that speaks for me to live in Southport because these members do not know what it is like to live in Broderick. We live under opposition of a gang injunction. We want the same experiences as the students in Southport. For example, students in Southport are able to go home after school and attend the rec center. We cannot attend the rec center because it is too far and we don't have transportation. Please vote for single-member representation. Thank you.
And by the way, she's an independent student, and this is, her speech is counting towards school credit.
Thank you, Juliana. And Monica Reeves.
Trustee Kirby Gonzalez, I believe Ms. Reeves' comment is for consent agenda.
Oh, it is. I'm sorry.
Thank
I
you.
apologize. Thank you for that. It's my piece. Thank you. Okay, this is a discussion item. Do I have board discussion?
Why don't you start?
Okay, well, I've been a strong advocate of single-member districts. We really should have more democracy here and accountability, and we can have that with single-member districts. Historically, we have not had that. If you look at school boards way beyond the 2000s, you would see that they were very, very homogeneous. And we also see that if you look at the history of West Sacramento, you'll see that a lot of the representation came from southern parts of West Sacramento. I believe it's really important that we have single-member districts because it means democracy and accountability. We've heard testimony from many of you. You live in areas where it is really necessary to have a representative that understands the issues that are important to you and can help solve these issues with your help. Now, I know some of the concerns some of the boards has expressed in the past have been that they feel that they couldn't go into some of the other schools if we have these single-member districts. That's incorrect. You can always visit the schools, even if you represent one area. I mean, we have single-member representation, on our Board of Supervisors. But they come together collectively to make decisions for all of Yolo County. The great thing is, these individuals that represent these different districts have a familiarity with the problems that go on in their districts. And there is accountability to them. If a member is not responding to their constituency, that's when you have an election and you get someone much more accountable. Now, I know we've often talked about West Sacramento and our at-large system. I myself have found some frustration, sometimes with things that happen within the city. I have brought up issues for the northern section, and although I have been politely told that they would get back to me, I have not always had city council members, respond back in a timely manner, or if at all. And it could be because they maybe feel that I'm out there speaking to other board members, and maybe they've taken care of it. But when you have a person accountable to you, it's really important because you've also built a relationship with that individual. They understand the special needs of that community, and I think this is really important because as school board members, the issue most important to all of us is our children. Now, someone made reference to the gang injunction. Some of the board members that I'd spoken with weren't aware of the impact of that gang injunction, and it's because they're not from the north side. This is a perfect example of why we need individuals in our, on our school boards who are sensitive to the needs of our communities, so that people know you by name, and they can come and knock on your door, and they can tell you, you know, what their problems are. We still come together collectively as a board to, you know, to solve these problems. But the most important thing when you have single-member districts is you're representing your own neighborhood, and you're allowing people the opportunity to also become involved. Perhaps they want to run for school board. And with at-large districts, it becomes very expensive. We're limiting democracy to only those folks with money, quite honestly. And that doesn't mean that people who aren't financially in the same situation should not be allowed to contribute their expertise, their knowledge, and we've seen so many, I should say, examples of this, you know, in an electoral system where only folks with a lot of money get to run for offices, and they're not always responsive. Now, I'm not saying this about any of the board members here, but I'm saying that there is no guarantee, unless we have single-member districts, that we will ever have continued accountability. Right now, Alicia and I represent the, we represent everyone, but we come from the north side of the district. I can honestly say that, you know, there's no guarantee with at-large districts that we will continue having representation or members from the north side. If Alicia or I decided not to run, or if we decided to move away, we would definitely have no guarantee that the next person running for school board was going to come from that north side. So I think these are very compelling arguments that you've brought forward, and I think it's really important that we keep democracy, and the most important thing is that we keep our children, you know, in mind when we make these decisions. Just recently, I went to the job fair over at River City, and we were trying to encourage these young people to become involved in the process, to become engaged and run for political office someday. I think it's really important when we consider this vote, also that we consider what kind of message we're sending to our young folks. So I want to reference also that back in 2012, it was mentioned that Esparto and I believe Winters and Woodland went into single-member, became single-member districts. And we were approached again, I believe in 2014, and we still haven't moved on this. So what I believe is that we have to transition by trustee area elections and adopt these trustee area maps and seek approval at the county and state levels with a recommendation on how we apply for this CVRA. I think it's important that we move the process forward, and that's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have other board comment?
I have a few comments, but we have someone in our audience, our Mayor Cabalden, who I'd like to invite up to the podium to talk about this. You've done extensive analysis and distributed this to us. So, Mayor Cabalden, would you mind stepping up to the podium, saying a few words?
And I'm sorry, what is it that we have?
He passed out an analysis that he did with the City of West Sacramento and the California Voting Rights Act.
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead, Mayor.
Yeah,
I have
thanks.
some questions.
So I don't have
Just
an,
got it.
I'm not here for an opinion about the issue. We had done, the city, having considered the same issue and is subject to exactly the same law, had performed an analysis of the facts on the ground with respect to the California Voting Rights Act, and thought it might be useful for you. Some of the information is different. Most of it is the same. The Voting Rights Act, as has been described, has a set of standards that are some in the law and some have been developed in the case law over time. And so most of the legal folks have said, school districts and cities that are served with a suit from one of the mainline civil rights organizations should be concerned because, as you heard, all of them that have been contested have been ruled in against the district or the city. But as we looked at that ourselves, we noted that that was all in cases where there were clear patterns and evidence. The reason why those cities and school districts were selected for suits by the firms that were essentially betting on them was because they had done the actual analysis underneath. And the key tests that the courts are examining are this question of racially polarized voting and candidates from particular protected classes and their rates of success and their access to success, and the ability of protected classes, that is the minority communities and communities like ours, to be able to influence or to direct the outcomes of elections. And so there are specific statistical tests to be performed to be able to determine whether that's the case. It just isn't the case because you have a large Asian population, for example, or a large Latino population that automatically means that you're subject to these provisions of the Voting Rights Act. So we first did the primary test of the Voting Rights Act in California is this notion of racially polarized voting. And the way that is analyzed through the courts is precinct by precinct by precinct. And what you look at is to see, are there precincts in the city that are predominantly Asian or Latino or African American or Native American, first of all. And then second, if there are their voting patterns statistically different from the rest of the city? And if they do those precincts lose, compared to the rest of the city when there are differences of outcomes? That's the fundamental, because it's mainly about the voters. It's not about the candidates first and foremost. So we did that analysis for the city, and since we share the same voting precincts, it's identical for the school district. And there are no precincts in the city where more than 60% of the residents are in any one ethnic group, with one exception out by Valhalla Mobile Home Park that includes the Port of Sacramento, which is a small population, which is predominantly white. But otherwise, there's no precincts in the city that have more than 60% of any particular ethnic group. There are technically one today, but two Latino majority precincts in the city. They are clustered in the Elkhorn Village neighborhood of Broderick. But that's all, actually. When we did the analysis, we were surprised that there weren't more Latino majority precincts. There are no Asian majority precincts or even close, and there are no African American or Native American precincts within the city. So technically, because there are no homogeneous precincts, racially homogeneous precincts, there can't be racially polarized voting under the test that the court applies. So just by the basic math and the rules that the courts have laid out, that neither the school district nor the city council meet the test for the California Voting Rights Act. But we took it one step further. So okay, set that aside for a moment and just let's look at, even though we don't meet that 60% or 80% standard, there are these one or two Latino majority precincts in the city that meet at least a 50% test. So if we're looking just at intent and not at the strictness of the statute, how do we do in that sense? And so you can see that we then looked for those precincts at how their vote results compared to the rest of the city and to the outcome for all of the city council elections since the year 2000. And you can see that on page 2 of the document that I handed out, and it shows the outcome in the LMPs, the Latino majority precincts, compared to the outcome in the city, and where it was the same and where it was different. It was the same in all cases except for one election, and that's not enough to demonstrate racially polarized voting. In fact, quite the opposite. What we found was that actually compared to any other group in the city, the Latino majority precincts were on the winning side more often than than anyone else. Just a cursory analysis of that earlier today suggests that looks to be also true for the school board, with the one exception of the election of Matt Stegman from Broderick to the school board a decade ago, that in every other case, the Latino majority precincts in the Washington Unified School District have always prevailed in every single one of the school board elections. And so the racially polarized voting test isn't met, and in fact, it's completely turned upside down for both the city council and for the school board. Then we turn to the secondary analysis of candidates. This is not the central purpose of the California Voting Rights Act, but it's obviously an issue of key interest. And when you have racially polarized voting, it can be essentially one of the aggravating factors for sentence enhancement in that sense. And so we looked at the candidate issues as well. The narrative covers the same issues, but for the city council, the narrative simply describes that we've had, and as you heard earlier as well, we've had greater Latino and Asian representation on the city council, continuously greater than the Latino or Asian population in the city for the last 15 years or so. This was not true before that. As Trustee Alcala said, before the year 2000, for both the city council and the school board, the vast majority of elected officials in the city were actually all from Westmore Oaks and the state streets, with one or two from Southport occasionally, but really just from Westmore Oaks and the state streets. But that changed for both the school board and for the city council in about 1998 and for the school board in the mid-2000s. Latino candidates for the school board have been the most successful of any ethnic group among the candidates over the last 15 years. And as I say, except for in that one election with Matt Stegman and Broderick, Latino majority precincts have always prevailed. Latino candidates have all won. Every single one of them have prevailed, with the exception of Royce Yanez, who did not come in third or even fourth in the Latino majority precinct. So he was not the candidate favored by Latino voters according to the way that the Voting Rights Act analysis is done, but all other Latino candidates for the school board had prevailed. And so the candidate test also is not passed in that sense. So then we were left with the question, okay, Voting Rights Act aside, this analysis saying we don't have to, and we would prevail in a court, which is why we haven't been served with a formal suit. What if we simply, as a matter of wanting to spread districts, what if we want to do districts for some other reason, for a geographic reason, for example? Could we proceed in that regard? And we considered that as part of our charter development process. Ultimately, we had to reject that concept as well. As Secretary of State Padilla and Naleo and Maldiv have said, the reverse analysis also has to be done, and so you cannot move from an at-large to a district system if it would have the effect of reducing Latino access to elected official slots, essentially. So the same analysis has to be accomplished. It doesn't just work one way. And when we did that analysis, based on those voting patterns, that it was determined by moving to a district system, we would more than likely, over time, reduce Latino representation on the city council. That's partly an artifact of Latino candidates in the city have fared particularly well in coalition, essentially between Broderick and Bright precincts and Southport precincts. Right? But they're too far apart to be drawn into the same seat. And therefore, there would be a minority of both. And if we had to draw 5 districts or 4 districts, in our case, it would mean only one district for Bright and Broderick, because about 40% of the city is actually not in Broderick or Bright or Southport. It's that big mass in the center that has has very few candidates, well, none on the school board, and now has few on the city council as well. So because of that reverse test of the California Voting Rights Act, districts were actually not permitted for us to proceed with. And so, as I said, I typically try to stay out of your stuff, and I'm going to exit now, but just wanted to provide the background that we had done, because we just did this about 2 months ago as part of our charter process.
Mayor, I do have a question. I don't see any author on here or who provided this report? I'm sorry.
We did at the city.
So it's the city's?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, this was commissioned as part of our charter process.
And you were talking about that there wasn't any area where there was a majority of Latinos or anything. How did you arrive at that? I mean, was it like to the voter registrar's office, or was it a census?
Census tracts. Yeah, census tracts then mapped on top of the voting precincts. So as I say, there is one Latino majority precinct, and for most of the last decade, that was in 2 precincts. That's the Elkhorn Village area. It's currently in 1, but during that other period, it was 2. But there are just those 2. There are many Latino influence precincts. That's a different term that the courts use as well. And I think there are 1 or 2 Asian influence precincts in Southport, but there's just that one Latino majority precinct in the city.
And you didn't go any further back than 2000, though, because historically, we've been a district for a very long time.
That's correct.
So you only went to 2000.
Yeah, because all of the court cases that have actually gone to litigation have only looked back 10 years. We look back 15 years in our analysis, but none of them have looked, particularly in a city like ours that's experienced significant demographic transition. Right. So.
Do you have a question?
We
Do you
do
have a
have, this is an interesting item tonight because we didn't have a staff report like we typically would, because we have heard this item before, and we had legal opinion before this discussion. So I do have one more blue slip that I will take, but did you have a question first? Okay.
No, that's okay. I do have some questions, but I'll hold off until later.
Mayor, one more question.
Yes, of course.
How many council members are from the north side over here?
From north of
City council.
North of the railroad tracks?
Out in Broderick and Bright, do we have any city council members?
No, and there never has been one. In fact, I'm the first member of the city council north of the freeway.
You, currently?
Ever in the history of the city. Yeah, that's right.
And how do we define that? That's usually, how do you define it? Is it usually like on West Capitol, or that you defined it? I guess I'm looking for a definition of the north side.
Well, I mean, we typically in the city think of the railroad tracks have been the zip code lines. Railroad tracks have been the principal divider. That's not shared. That's not a shared perspective throughout the city. You know, in some parts of the city, they think of the barge canal, interestingly enough, as the north-south line, or the freeway, or other lines, depending on where you sit in the city. Apparently, you know. So.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, the next public comment, and I think this will be the last one so we can have our discussion, is Carlos Acla.
In my past, before living in West Sacramento, I wrote the section of the voting rights chapters for Ralph Nader on the Congress Project. I was the National Director of Educational Litigation for MALDEF that was mentioned by the previous speaker. I worked on the cases in Texas deriving from White versus Register, which were the cases that led to the CBRA. Now, having said that, White versus Register was based on historical discrimination. It definitely did not end a few years before a study is done. They looked at the composition of, the way we did it was we looked at the composition of school districts. We actually went into boards. We actually did newspapers. We went into school board minutes, and recently I had a chance to be looking at some school board minutes in Woodland. I'm looking for the school board minutes of the district here as well. But what I'm going to tell you is, prior to 2000, the history of this district is that it was not representative. The history of this city today is that it is not representative. In this city, you do not have a city councilman from the north. You don't have one from Broderick, you don't have one from Bright. They just don't exist. Now, there's never been one, and I'm glad he mentioned it, because the city's been around for a while. There's got to be a reason why there's not, nobody's coming from there. Now, we're going to have an election coming up where we're hoping to get somebody elected from that area. But historically, there's been no representation from those areas. Now, in terms of the studies, the way these cases are done is you commission, each side gets their own expert. And the expert meets with the group that's going forward. In the case of the letter that was written to the districts in the YOLO area, it was the Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights out of San Francisco that wrote that letter. And they included Washington School District among the districts that they were looking at. The Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights under the Law and MALDEF at that time was headed by Joaquin Avila, did the cases that the mayor was referring to. In those cases, they have their own expert.
I assure you, they do not use the defense expert to go forward. They don't stop at 2,000. They don't just take the statistics that are going to favor them and use them. They're going to take all the statistics, and the study that you heard about, which I reviewed, is not limited to Latinos. The study is skewed by the inclusion, by two things. First, it's skewed by time. They limit it to 2,000. That won't happen anywhere else. Secondly, they include Asian representation. The case, the efforts that we're talking about is the representation of Latinos. A person is not Latino because of a last name. It isn't, I mean, I know you guys realize that. And this particular study, or the one that I saw from him, included, I forget the name of the family. It's a Filipino family, Montemayor.
Montemayor.
A very nice family.
I am
But-
going to have to ask you to wrap it up. I'm very
Okay,
sorry
I'm gonna
because I
wrap it
did
up.
to others.
Okay. What I'm saying is it's a skewed study. It's not the one you'd get. It's not normal. It's something that's done by one side to favor one side.
Thank you very much. Okay, do we have,
Was Katie done?
No, go ahead, Kobe.
Okay. I have quite a few things to say, but first I wanted to ask our staff a question as to what it would cost if the district was sued via the Voting Rights Act to fight off or try and defend in this. How much does it cost us? Even if we're not in violation of the Voting Rights Act, if there was a group out there that decided to sue us, time for attorney's fees and so forth, what are we looking at? Just a ballpark.
Trustee Posada, it's very hard to give a projection. It depends on the hours and whatever the amount of information is needed for that particular lawsuit. I can ask about a projection. All I know about that is that in a lawsuit under this particular situation, it is true that the entity, the organization that loses this case and is found out of compliance will have to pay the attorney fees of the other entity.
Right, and I understand. I think we actually win in this case because we're not out of compliance. But the mere fact that we go to court and we have to pay for the attorney's fees is enough to get us to settle. And that's kind of the position where you're in. I don't want to waste any more of the money for our students than necessary. And so that's one of my concerns. One of my other concerns is in general, I favor the idea of a single-member district. That's in general. However, how it's done is more of a concern. I was looking on our three options here, and I don't agree with any of them. So I'm closer to number two, but again, one of the things that I have an issue with is redrawing lines within 2 years of a census being done, or 4 years of a census being done. We have more construction going on in the north area with all the construction that was done by Rayleigh Field since the last census. So there's a bunch of new there's a new population going into that area that would potentially skew a district. So I could say doing number two, but after the 2020 census and when the lines are redrawn in 2022. So that would be something that I would be willing to consider. That would probably get my support. I have issues with doing anything that would disenfranchise a portion of the population that would be underrepresented in that area. And it makes no sense to draw lines twice in a matter of 6 years. So I think that's where I stand.
Can I go? Well, as you know, I'm not supportive of this. I actually have lived here 27 years, more than half of my life. I started on the north side. I run a business on the north side, and I live on the south side. And I've done everything that's humanly possible to bring the community together. And I don't think districts help that. I actually think it divides it. I've talked to people in Woodland, and I've talked to folks down south that have done the California Voting Rights Act, and heard their feedback that it's not that helpful. We have 2 members from the north, which is awesome, and I think Alicia and Norma do a great job. But I also feel that I represent the north because of my job there and the work that we do in the community. And we have 7,000 kids in our school district, about 50,000 in the city. Our city has, Kobe, you bring up a great point, because our city has doubled since 2000 in population. And where the population growth are, I think that's going to make a huge difference of where the districts would be. And, I think we have to call this out. We have a local member of our community, Alberto Tirico, that is with the law firm that's running this. Is that right, Norma? I mean, he lives in the community, is formerly from the Assembly, moved to West Sac.
He has successfully also sued many districts.
And he's the one that's doing that.
And he has won.
That's suing the districts. And I think, wow, at the time where we need to give teachers raises, we're worrying about getting sued by one of our own community members. I mean, that just doesn't feel right to me. So I have a lot to say on this, but that's all I'll say for right now.
Well, if we did this, we wouldn't get sued, because I think there would be a lot of equity here. Now, in terms of being divided, I think the community already feels divided, because, Katie, quite honestly, the South gets a lot of the amenities that we don't. We've seen it with our kids, we've seen it in our own city, and there's always been the disenfranchisement. And I think when people feel that they can actually elect their own people, and this doesn't just go for our school board, but, for our city, people that represent them and their interests, I think that's when you start the healing process, when people feel that they have a place at the table. Right now, a lot of folks don't feel that way. So, respectfully, I can tell you, I live over there. I've lived over there since 1966, and I know that, these are the sentiments of the folks over there. I do a lot of walking. I meet people every day. I've been very active in my church, so I hear what folks over there on that north side say. And in terms of the census, folks, we've waited long enough. It's always tomorrow, tomorrow, tomorrow. And that isn't good enough for those of us that have been waiting. It's something that should be done. Now, this community is going to continue to grow. That's true. But geographically, right now, I think there's a tremendous need for having these single-member districts, having someone accountable and knowledgeable about the neighborhoods that they live in. I think now is the time to make this single-member move. And the process, I'd like to hear again from Mr. Rodriguez, if he could come up, and if maybe you can tell us a little more about the process, just so maybe if you have any questions, you can ask him. Apparently, there were some questions that some had.
I don't have any questions for Serenia.
Well,
I think Mr. Pizzotti had some concerns about what the costs and stuff like that would be, timelines.
For us, it was the cost. It was the uncertainty. And Madera School District and the city were one of those initial cases. And some of them felt very secure because they had a history of electing Latinos to the school board. And it didn't make any difference when it went to court and they lost. And they ended up paying $5-6 million that, we can't afford to lose that amount of money. And when from an academic perspective, we looked at the literature, at-large versus the district, the evidence is with the district, so it makes sense from a good governance practice to have districts. Now, it took us almost a year in Woodland, to get it, because once the board decided we're going to move forward, they appointed a committee that then worked with the demographer and prepare several, 3-4 different maps that they presented to the board, and then the board voted on it, and it went from the school board to the county, and then from the county to the state. And fortunately, the state law and the state called for the State Board of Education to waive an election at the local level for school districts. For cities, that wasn't the case, and the city of Woodland decided, we're going to do it, even though 3 or even 4 of the board members live within the same district, actually 3 of them. And they took it to the voters, and we were concerned that the voters were going to reject it. And you know what? They almost got 70% of the vote. The citizens, the voters, like having someone from their neighborhood represent them, not the way that it was like in Woodland, where at least 3 or 4 of the city council members live within walking distance of each other. And so the citizens like that. And contrary to what board member has heard in Woodland, I haven't heard any negative aspects. The only thing that we heard negatively is that 3 city council members have to compete for the same seat. Well, that's democracy. And if that's the case, well, let it be. One of them ended up moving to another area to be able to run. But, that was his choice.
Self-interest.
One of my concern was the cost. And again, I don't want to see us get sued, but I don't think we're out of compliance. So I don't see why a suit would be brought against us. Because why would an attorney or an attorney group bring a suit against us if we're not out of compliance in any way? So that's, I don't think we're in danger of being sued. So that's kind of the driving factor. Then you get back to the more personal factor of what do you personally believe in? And I personally believe more in district representation. I worked in the legislature for 10 years, and I work around the Capitol as a lobbyist for another 10. So I've been in politics for 20 years. I've ran campaigns. I've worked on many, many campaigns, and I understand precincts and how they work and the size and the shapes of elections. And the closer that you get to the people with your elected representative, then generally the better off that little community is. However, with that said, one of the things that I've dealt with is making maps, and I've dealt with the census and analyzing census data. And when you try to draw maps in the middle of a census, you disenfranchise a certain amount of voters. And that is basically what we'd be doing if we did this now. That's why I made the suggestion of waiting until after the next census. Now, I understand that you believe that this is something that should happen immediately, and I totally agree with the idea of having districts. I just can't get behind the idea of doing it immediately. I think there is a good rationale for actually having more of the construction included into the area of the census, because we have so much of the Raley's Field construction area where all those new developments have gone in that would not be counted under these lines. And then there's one small factor that I didn't like. I think one of the young ladies in the striped dress said that we would pick a person as a representative to sit on a commission to draw the maps for us. I really don't like that idea. I completely want my hands off of this. I don't want to have any part of having gerrymandering thrown back into my face. I absolutely want no part of that. That's not good government in my opinion, and I don't want to do that. So, if I get drawn into a district with somebody and I get unelected, then so be it. But I don't want to be the one appointing somebody to say, hey, that's not okay. I don't want this guy in with this board member over here. And that's just not appropriate to me. So.
Can I comment also? To begin with, we always make appointments to boards and stuff. And when we make those appointments, we believe that we are selecting people, who are open-minded and who are being fair. I know if I had an opportunity to select someone, let's say not just for this, but for anything else, I would certainly hope that the person and guarantee that the person that I selected would be acting in the best interest of the entire community, and everyone would have a representative. So, that, to me, it's not gerrymandering, because initially you still have to come to a consensus. Everyone gets to vote on those maps. It's not just one person. Now, in terms of projections, you were talking about the census, and what I can say is the city has already made projections as to where housing is going to be. As a school board, we've made projections about where our next schools are going to be. So we already have those projections, for the next few years. I don't think we have to wait until the census occurs for us to have that information. It is available for us.
But I guess what I'm saying is we have already had construction since the last census in 2010. We've had a lot of new construction actually since 2010, and that is not counted. We stopped counting in 2010, so that would not be we're midway through a census of 4 more years. So that's kind of where I'm getting at, is there's already a block of people that would not be counted in the next set of maps. So say for example, we approve this at the next board meeting. It goes on the next ballot for 2018. Then it goes for the next lines. The lines are drawn, then the next election would be 2018, that it could potentially be drawn lines. Okay, well then you have, under the new districts, and we're throwing out hypotheticals, under the new districts, they would be first implemented in 2018. Then the census comes out in 2010. New lines would be drawn in 2022. So to me, that doesn't make sense of why we would do that.
Well, I just believe, as I said, that, we have projections that from the city and as well as from the school board. I mean, they project growth and infrastructure. And I think we could use a lot of that as well, to determine where a lot of these
This
lines
has to be based on registered voters in
Yes.
its area.
Yeah.
That's the difference. I mean, you don't do it based
No,
on
no.
houses and.
No, but I'm saying, Katie, I just asked the mayor, and he said it's on census. So,
It-
I mean,
it's based on
projection
census
of
tract.
numbers.
That was done
Right.
in 2010.
Right,
Right.
well, but it doesn't have to be done according to voters. I mean, we obviously have a lot of folks that are undocumented who can't vote, in our district. So, and I'm so sorry, I want to continue this, but I have to use the ladies' room.
And I'm listening carefully to this conversation. I think it's time to move it forward. And so I'll share what I've been thinking. I know it's a late night. I really appreciate everyone who's come out, who's stayed a really long time to share your thoughts. And you've been articulate. You've spoken from the heart. Everyone who spoke tonight, I know that your interests are nothing but genuine. And I absolutely appreciate hearing them. We're repeating a lot of what we've said many times because this conversation has come up. So if you've been here, forgive me, we're going to say it again. Before I ran for school board here, I was asked what I thought about district elections here. I do teach in a place, I work in a school district that is very different in terms of it's Folsom Cordova. I've always taught in Rancho Cordova for 12 years. Rancho Cordova is very different than Folsom, and that's an at-large district. And so I definitely can sometimes see, what can happen when people have a hard time getting the vote out. Now, that's a place where you can't precinct walk, it's 2 different cities. And that's a place where I have looked at it and thought, gosh, is everybody getting their voice heard? When I was asked that question here, though, of West Sacramento, I said I didn't think it was the right thing before I ran. And I've tried to really be open-minded, to listen. I have a lot of respect for Board Trustee Alcala. And again, I know what everyone is saying here. You all are people who have fought very hard to make sure that people's voices are heard, who are not always heard. And so I've really listened with an open mind. Everyone who has been elected to our school board in recent time, everyone who's here, with the exception of Mr. Posadi, because he has not yet run, has won their neighborhood, and they've gotten a seat on the board. They've come in number 1 or number 2 in their neighborhood. No one has come in number 1 or 2 and not won a seat on the board. And if that was happening, then right away I would say, oh no, what's going on here? People are winning their neighborhoods, they're not winning a seat on the board. And that hasn't been happening. I absolutely understand the conversation of money coming up. It's a theme, right, across our nation right now, money in politics. The race that I ran in, I think, saw the most money that the school board has seen. My opponent raised $60,000. But you know what? He lost every single precinct. And so money doesn't always buy elections. We have some smart people here in West Sacramento who do their homework. And we have board members who are up here who have won on a very small budget, nothing like that. And so, but again, I know there's a cost. I absolutely know that, and that can be hard for people. Sitting in this role up here and making this decision, it would be a decision that would cost the school district some money. And I know many people feel that there's a benefit to that, right? The cost benefit, but it would cost the district money and it would save candidates money, and we're the candidates. And so I feel uncomfortable voting for something that would save candidates money but cost the district money. I don't feel like that's why I was elected. I feel like it's in my best interest to pass something. It saves candidates money. That's one of the things that has been mentioned. I agree. I don't feel comfortable appointing somebody to drop the maps. If this was coming from an outside, if this happened, I would want it to come completely not on my hands to see. And I absolutely understand wanting to vote for somebody in your neighborhood, but at the same time, I am not going to advocate in this boardroom that the school in my neighborhood get more money or get more of anything. I'm not going to advocate for that. I won't advocate for that ever, no matter what the election looks like. I'm going to look at every school in our district. And in fact, I've done the opposite sometimes and said, hey, you know what? Let's look at how much money we're spending at our schools. Is it equitable? And I don't want to be held accountable to my little neighborhood wanting me to be pushing to have that school have the most resources. It really needs to be every school and be equitable. And I feel like the size of this district, we can do that. I also feel that it takes away people's right to vote for 5 people. You can vote for one person, but it takes 3 people to make a decision. It takes 3 people to make a decision up here. And you only get to vote for one. And so that is very hard for me to support without a lot of evidence of why we would need to do that. And when I've talked to folks out at school sites and out at the park, and I've said that this has been coming up and we're discussing this, they've said to me, I want to be able to vote for 5, I want to be able to vote, I'm an active voter, I want to go and vote. And so I feel very uncomfortable doing those pieces from here. If this is a community organization, it gets on the ballot, that's a different circumstance to me. But sitting here, I feel, and I know you disagree, but I feel like it's an abuse of power for me to cost the district money, to save candidates money, and to take away the right for people to vote for 5 people and vote for 1. So I very much respect what everyone is saying. I hear what everyone's saying, and I certainly know that this is something we need to be very, very aware of and how people are feeling and their voices are heard. That's where I stand now, and I don't feel that there is right now a majority to move forward.
Okay, let me just address one point Sarah made. She said it's to save the candidates, money and stuff. It's allowing more folks to actually run, because as an incumbent, you have an advantage. People know your name. You've also usually received you have your old signs that I know Sarah's used her old signs, and you have a distinct advantage. So respectfully, Sarah, that argument for me doesn't seem to apply to this. Also, institutionalized democracy. You have to have it. You have to be able to say we're going to have someone. Right now, it's coincidence that Alicia and I, are both from the north. But as we've said before, if you really look at the record going way beyond 2000, we didn't have that. We don't have it right now in our city council. That's very evident. The mayor admitted to that. So we have to do the right thing, and I think the right thing is to hear we've heard the voices of people here, and the bottom line is the right thing is to allow democracy to occur within, these neighborhoods. We need neighborhood democracy. We need people to be accountable to people in their neighborhoods. There has to be accountability, and that's the only way you can get it. I've shared with you many times my frustration with city council, addressing issues with them, and then no one ever gets back to me, and that's not correct. So I believe that this is really important. I think the North has been silenced long enough. We have people, the majority of you who are here at this council meeting are from the North. I've heard you many times talk about how important it is to have someone from your area, but it has to be institutionalized. Carlos and I may decide to take off to Europe, and not come back. Alicia may decide not to run for school board, and there would be no guarantee that there would be someone who would be willing to take on an election. It's tough work, folks. It's really tough. You have to walk a lot of houses. But if you walked less houses, your immediate neighborhood, it's possible for more parents to get involved and to be able to get involved in the process. You may have some young people who decide. I was encouraging a lot of young people over at River City High School to get involved. You only have to be 18 to run for school board. So in terms of helping us as candidates, no, we already have that advantage. We have the name recognition and everything. So I think it's really important that we open up the democratic process to more folks, who should be allowed, in these single-member districts to contribute, and.
So this is a place to give direction, and I don't feel that we have consensus on moving forward with the direction.
I still have support for this idea, and I would like to see it amended. I'd like to see number 2 amended, and that's where my support is. And my support is, yes, to go forward with districts, but after the drawing of new lines in 2022. After the census has been conducted in 2020, that's when the new lines will be drawn and the new election would be held. That's where my support is. So I would like to see that as an option.
Okay. All right. We don't need to make a motion because this is discussion item.
It's a discussion item, but it's not included in our options. So
Yes.
I don't know if I have to make a motion for that.
We don't need to vote on it if it's a discussion item, but are there others who are okay with that? Because I don't feel that we have consensus here. I am not supportive of that.
Well, I want to move forward with the recommendations that we explore number 2. And of course, it looks like we have a split.
So then at this
Board right
time, we're
now.
going to move forward with the agenda tonight. And then we're going to go to item N5, which is the California Children's Education and Healthcare Plan Protection Act of 2016.
Do you want to explain the split vote?
Because we don't have consensus to move forward. And so there are not three people who are moving that forward. And it's a discussion item, not action.
But this wasn't a 4-vote item. It was for direction, right? So
But you don't
would
have
only-
3 people to give direction to move forward.
I don't think you would need that. You would need just a simple majority of people present and voting.
Which you don't have.
And so you and I are the 2, and it's a split. That's why I said a split
It's a
board right
split.
now. So, direction?
If I may make a recommendation for the board, what we can do is call for a vote at the next board meeting and have it an action item.
All right.
I feel like we've talked about, this has come to us many times.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like we've said many of the same things many times.
I'd like
so-
to move it into an action item.
I'll second that.
Okay, so if we want to vote, then all those in favor?
No.
For the next board
For the next
meeting.
board meeting,
Put it on
correct.
For the next board meeting.
Yeah.
So will we need to take a vote to move that forward? Is that what you're
No.
saying?
No.
Okay,
You
so
do
two
not.
board members would like to move that forward,
Right.
and two would not.
However, again, my caveat is after the census. So
Okay.
So we can,
I would like
So what we will have on the
add
agenda.
a fourth agenda, or add a fourth option on there.
We'll run that by legal counsel. That
Maybe.
comes strictly from the language itself regarding that.
Thank you.
Okay, so sorry for the confusion. We're on to N5, which is the California Children's Education and Healthcare Protection Act of 2016.
Thank you, Vice President Kirby Gonzalez. This particular item, the California Children's Education and Healthcare Protection Act of 2016, was requested to be brought to the board as an agenda item of information. And this particular act stems from the 2012 year when the California voters moved to approve Proposition 30, which was used in superintendent terms at that time was to stop the hemorrhaging. And the hemorrhaging was that school districts were going under because of the recession in California. And during that recession, there were lots of things that happened to school districts, such as $56 billion from education and other services were cut. And those cuts included teacher layoffs, increased school class sizes, higher college tuition fees, and reduced essential services across the state of California, not only in education, but in other social services. I was a superintendent at the time in another school district, and it affected our district greatly. We all ended up serving 5 days of furlough for 2 years in a row, and our teachers took an additional 3 days. So our teachers and our administration lost 8 days of per diem for 2 years in a row because of the recession. Proposition 30 at the time was a temporary extension, a temporary tax to truly stop the bleeding and the hurting to the schools and to social services in California. Proposition 30 is sunsetting. And at this time, that is why it is being brought forward, the California Children's Education and Healthcare Protection Act of 2016, that this particular proposition will extend the Prop 30 taxes for another 12 years, which will essentially bring in, it's projected to bring in, based on the economy of the years, an additional $8 to $11 billion to the state of California. It's similar to the parameters of the tax extension. It goes to those who make $250,000, and then it increases accordingly. But it is scheduled to be moved forward on the ballot, and many school districts are showing support to that because we remember those days and we never want to relive those. So it's up for discussion for the board and how you would like to proceed forward.
I asked this measure to be placed on our agenda for discussion and then for a resolution in support of this because I lived through the legislature's dilemmas when I was working in the legislature, and Governor Schwarzenegger came into office and he immediately cut the VLF, which was $4 billion a year. 7 years later, we were in a $28 billion hole, ironically. Magic how that works out. And then Governor Brown came in and he passed the tax increases, which slowly and surely brought us out of where we were financially and into a place where we now have a bit of a surplus. However, those were temporary. These tax extensions are absolutely necessary for us to maintain where we are now, especially since the news of I don't know if everybody's heard this or not, but it was announced today that the The LAO says that we're about $1 billion off of the governor's budget projections from earlier this year in January. So we're starting to see a slide in revenues. I think we've hit the peak of our economy. We're starting to ever so slightly, and it's not going to go down as hard as it ever did, like when Schwarzenegger was in office. It'll slowly go down. And we do have a rainy day fund, so we won't be as smacked in the face with a drastic recession as we were. But some of the things that we want for our children, some of the programs, some of, the transportation expenses, some of everything that we want to do for our kids to help them learn are contingent upon the passing of these tax extensions. So I certainly hope that we can fully get behind this resolution when the time comes.
I am in total agreement with you, Board Member Pizzotti, and I couldn't agree more. I hadn't realized that you'd made the recommendation for the resolution. I'm so happy that you did, because I also remade that same.
Great minds.
Yeah. So I'm just going to tell you that I'd like to make a motion to, it's not an action item? Okay. Well, I just want to then go ahead and also support this resolution.
It's not a resolution, but it's to bring a resolution forward, correct? For an action.
For discussion and then next week or
Okay.
next.
Correct.
Good. I am also, well, actually, Board Member Villegas, do you have anything to add?
Go ahead.
Okay.
I would support a resolution coming forward, too.
And I think it's important to note that California is nowhere near the top of funding when we look at our nation. I mean, even with this tax extension, we are definitely, it's pretty pathetic where California lies in terms of funding of schools per student spending compared to what other states have. So absolutely in favor of it. And very tired. We did not make a motion to go past 10, so can I please have a motion to go past 10?
So moved.
Second.
Now that we've done it. All right. So that takes us to action items. And we have action item 1 is approval of the new CSEA position and job description for a lead construction technician. Mike Reed, Assistant Superintendent.
So as we heard earlier, there are a great number of construction projects as a result of the work with Measure V, or the Measure V bond, excuse me. Currently, there's one employee overseeing the construction of those facility projects and with the support of the business department. So administration is requesting the board approve a new CSEA position and job description for a lead construction technician who would work under the supervision of the director of facilities.
Okay, is there any discussion? Okay, this is just where I want to really make sure with approving this that we're committed then to getting out the information we talked about, making sure that the public with an extra set of hands really knows exactly what's going on with our Measure V. Okay, so can I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Did you get a second? Didn't get a second. Oh, you didn't get a second.
I'm very tired. Second? I'm sorry. Okay, so we have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. 2 vote aye. Okay, moving on, we have approval of the new CSEA position and job description for a data specialist for LCAP policies and regulations. Again, Michael Reed, Assistant Superintendent.
So again, we're requesting your approval of a new CSEA position. This position would work work directly with the superintendent to focus on LCAP, board policy, and regulations, and not listed in the job description title, though. The position would also work closely with a number of changes coming with CalPADS.
Okay, thank you. Is there any discussion?
Nope.
Okay, all those in favor, or can I get a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion.
Can I have a second?
Toby, you want a second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
I too vote aye. I have comments tonight for our consent agenda item. So we have 3.
Wait, we have one more.
03, approval of collaboration and minimum days calendar and important dates for the 2016-2017 school year. And Michael Reed.
All right, the Collaboration and Minimum Day Calendar Committee met under the facilitation of Director Voloshin in the Ed Services Department in order to develop a calendar that's provided in the packet. The number of things involved in that calendar, just want to call out that the district collaboration days were placed towards the beginning of the school year to help with the facilitation of the new math adoption. And that the remaining days were distributed in alignment with site, department, and grade level work. And it's very similar to the calendar that was used this year.
Okay, thank you. Is there any discussion? Nope. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I too vote aye. And this takes us to our comment on the consent agenda tonight. We have Don Stauffer, and then we'll have Jenna Rasky, and then we'll have Monica Reeves.
Hello again. My question was about P2, the certificated items. One, because there's a special agenda meeting for tomorrow night with the same item listed, and I was wondering what was, and since there's no attachment to that, I'm wondering what it's going to be about and why it couldn't be presented tonight.
The reason why we are holding a special board meeting is to take action following your action this evening. The board agenda for tomorrow specifically states that it is a principal appointment, but we cannot make a principal appointment until this evening's board meeting is completed. There also were some circumstances in which we were unable to confirm decisions made for a particular employee before the 72-hour posting period for this particular agenda.
Thank you. So Jenna Rasky, is she here? Okay, yeah. So Monica Reeves.
Hi, I didn't intend to speak today, but thank you. On February 5th, our school received the sad news that our principal, Carla Marquez, a 40-plus year employee and former administrator of the year, would be out for an unspecified amount of time due to health issues. We all hoped that Carla would quickly heal and return to Stonegate. The staff and remaining administration pulled together to fill the large void that Carla's absence left. If you know Carla, you know how big that void really is. Linda Luna and Michael Reed both came on that day, on February 25th, and Linda Luna asked us, "What do you need?" We stated our needs at that time, and you honored them. You maintained our vice principal and also maintained our teacher in charge, and Stonegate is very grateful for that. So I am confused, as well as the staff of Stonegate, as to why our principal is being reassigned at this time. Hasn't she earned the right to go out on her own terms? Furthermore, why did the staff at Stonegate not find out this information directly from Linda Luna or Michael Reed before today? I found out in a text over the weekend. Today, we were told that Carla was being resigned. So today, Mr. Reed came to a meeting with the staff at 1 o'clock today. It was also our open house. Today, we were told that Carla was being reassigned and that Mr. Ben Kingsbury will be the new principal at Stonegate. We had no input in this decision. Mr. Reed stated that in March, when they interviewed for Riverbank and Westfield, they found 3 outstanding candidates, and at that time chose to offer the 3rd candidate a contract without a school site. The timing of this is questionable because it came about a month or so after the meeting with Ms. Luna and Mr. Reed on February 25th. Mr. Reed stated that they didn't want to lose a good candidate in March because if they waited until the summer, then the pool would not be as good or as great and the candidates would not be as strong. Mr. Reed also stated that Mr. Kingsbury was a longtime administrator of the district and an employee. He had been at 2 different schools, and that he had no plans to leave Washington Unified School District. So why the rush to sign Mr. Kingsbury if he has no plans to leave us and he is at the high school? Mr. Reed stated today that he didn't know when the announcement would be made officially that Mr. Kingsbury is the new principal of Stonegate. So I wonder why there is a special board meeting tomorrow at 6 p.m. with one agenda item to approve the hiring recommendations of a new administrator. Maybe it's not Mr. Kingsbury. I don't know. There's no attachment. I don't know. The timing is just weird to me. Today, Carla Marquez, a 40-plus year employee, is being resigned, and tomorrow you are asking to approve a new administrator. Stonegate staff is deeply upset by the lack of communication in regards to hiring a new principal. We appreciate the confidentiality about Ms. Marquez's health, but we were never asked, nor administrators asked, what Stonegate needed in a new principal. So I'm going to go back to the question Ms. Luna asked us on February 25th. What do we need? 1, that our principal, Carla Marquez, heals, and that she is well. 2, a say in who will be the next principal at Stonegate. A fair and equal chance to pick our new principal, just like Riverbank and Westfield got to do this year. In the words of school board member Norma Akala just a few moments ago, we, the teachers and staff at Stonegate, want a place at the table. Thank you.
Thank you, Monica. Jenna Rasky.
I'm really sleepy. I don't know if my
You
words
stayed
are gonna make
very,
sense.
very late. Thank you for staying to share your
You're
points.
welcome. Let's see if it comes out. So as a staff, I think that we just feel very disrespected, and we kind of got the message today that our input doesn't matter and wouldn't have mattered, and it almost felt like we were being told that we were too emotional as a staff to make a decision, and that we wouldn't have been able to make a decision because we were emotional. Our Stonegate staff is a family. We have already had a very emotional time in the last 4 months, and everyone has worked extra hard to make sure that our staff is all on the same page and that we're functional as a school. People have worked with Carla for many years, and we've all put in a lot of hard work to make it a close-knit community. In the last 3 days, we were hit with 2 big bombshells. First, that Carla would not be coming back to our school site, and then right after that, that a principal has already been selected for us, and that we would have no say in it, and that there would be nothing to do about it to change that. We were told today that this was a logical decision, and we would need to put our emotions aside, and I'm not denying that there's logic needed. I get that, she's in an ill place. I understand the decision that she needs to be reassigned, but I feel like this message could have come across 2 months ago, that this is a decision that needed to be made, and our input could have been asked for then. And I understand the confidentiality, but we're all adults, and we can we understand that there needed to be logic. Mr. Kingsbury might be a great principal. I don't know him. I'm not saying otherwise, but there are other options to be considered. We don't know what options might have become available, or we don't know what might be available now if we had opened up the pool, or if we opened it up even now. Mr. Kingsbury still might be the best choice. I don't know. But who's to say that without any input from the parents, community, and staff? I wish the district would have afforded the teachers a say. Our schools are not solely a business. This isn't a money-making endeavor where we're all here with, just solely logic and business. Our classrooms are run with respect, empathy, compassion, and input from the parents and the staff and the kids. And I wish that the district would have had the same attitude to the teachers and community. And I don't understand why their interactions with us are purely business when we're being asked to run our classrooms and our schools differently. Anyway, so as a staff, we're very disappointed and very disillusioned with the decisions of the district and with the direction that they went in. And we don't want it to happen again to our school in the future or any other schools in the district. So anyway, just wanted to say that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. You have been heard. Thank you for coming and staying.
So was that on a consent item, or was?
Those were comments
Just-
made regarding the consent agenda. Yes. And so we are now to the consent agenda, and so I would need a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Okay. Do I have a second?
If the board is unwilling to approve the consent agenda, perhaps the board needs to specifically, if it's all of the agenda items on the consent, then that is what you would be voting on. If the board is concerned about a specific item on the agenda, then it needs to be pulled.
So I would need a motion for that if that's what somebody wanted to do.
I'll make a motion to pull item P2 is
I'll
what I'm
second
assuming.
that.
Okay, and all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, 2 vote aye.
With direction on P2
Yes, so we
to be
need to,
tabled or completely off.
No, I think just one thing on there. I'm trying to find out where it is.
Yeah.
Is it the reassignment? Help.
Oh, I'm sorry, yes, my.
That would-
It's the reassignment, that is the one pertaining to this one.
Can we do that? Can we not do that?
how do we, you can make a motion, we made a motion to approve, you can make a motion to pull specifically just that piece and approve the other HR recommendations. So if you want to now make a motion to approve
We'll amend the
P2
motion.
without, amended
I'll amend the
without
motion.
principal and special assignment. So if you wanted to make a motion to do that, then we can approve
I'll let
the
Kobe
other.
do it.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll amend the motion to remove the principal on special assignment.
Okay, and to vote on P2 then, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
I too vote aye. So we need to give direction on P1 if we're going to, since it's being pulled, if that's going to be
P2. You said P1.
P2 number, yes, you're right, sorry, one principal and special
Yeah, I was
assignment,
gonna-
you're right. I don't want for that piece of P2, we need to give direction. So you made a motion, what would you like?
I would make the motion that staff, district staff, meet with the teachers as well as other stakeholders involved in this. Maybe they still come up with the same findings, but at least give them a seat at the table and have a conversation.
So again, it's principal on special assignment. So the direction would be that before a principal is put on special assignment, that there is discussion with staff.
Correct.
The staff cannot have discussions with the staff until the board has taken action that the principal is reassigned. So until the board takes action on that, the principal remains the principal. There's no conversation to be had.
Okay, I'm sorry then, I was confused. I was
Like-
talking purely about the selection of a new principal.
As of right now, there is no selection of a new principal if you have a principal at Stonegate School.
So we need to remove
So you
one.
need
Okay.
to, so you would need to approve the principal on special assignment.
Okay.
And
So
then
now
this
we're
would be a
back where we-
conversation for the special board meeting tomorrow. It sounds like,
almost
is what you're
11.
giving direction. And we have to
I'm
go
sorry,
back
this is a
in.
little confusing and it's late, so.
So you would be, if this is what you're thinking, approve a principal on special assignment, but then tomorrow, there's a special board meeting for a principal assignment, and that would be the place where it sounds like you have a concern.
Right. Okay, so again, I'll rescind my motion and
And I'll second that.
Well, now I think all we need to vote for is on P2.
Place it back on.
Principal on special assignment, because we've already approved
Okay.
everything else.
A-
right?
And I guess we'll
Sorry.
make the motion to put the principal back on special assignment, and then after the next board meeting,
We'll talk.
we'll talk.
Second.
Tomorrow, we have a special board
That's
meeting.
what I'm talking about.
I'll second
And we'll
that.
give direction.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
I do vote aye.
So just to bring clarity, so that the staff has the correct direction, it is late, but I just want to bring clarity. The board just took action to approve the consent agenda item without item number P.2. The board then took action to approve P.2, which is the certificated personnel agenda with the reassignment of a principal.
Yes.
Correct.
Good.
Okay, and so that takes us then to our last piece for board governance. I just need to collect your board trustee self-evaluations. I have 2 of them, and so Board President Cruz has requested that we're going to hand those over to her, and then we'll have a conversation next board meeting on our self-evaluation, since she is not here tonight. And we have our future board agenda items, which would be the Board of Education meeting calendar, first read of board policy and administrative regulations, and district homework policies and philosophies. We cannot adjourn because we need to go back and discuss item E, Government Code Section 54957, Public Employee Superintendent Evaluation.
Can we move that? Okay, okay.
Okay. So we're going to go back into closed session.